Say hi.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call the meeting to order. We have multiple present and Ms. Brown. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Have multiple present. First item of business is a public hearing. So I will call the public hearing to order. And this is in regard to the budget agenda. First item of business is a public hearing. So I will call the public hearing to order. Could we, if you have a cell phone,
This is just the public hearing going over this briefly to allow any community members to ask any questions or anything. Because during your May revision, you do have the opportunity for a public hearing. So I'll go through the presentation and just go over some of the highlights with some of our major funds. So our M&O is 42 million, almost $43 million. Our classroom site fund is almost 31 million. Capital is 58 million and our bond is 54 million. So those are the total budget limits that we had with our December revision. So kind of going back and doing a comparison to what we did in December and what we have right now. So math being correct and all things being good, it's the same number.
no change there.
So no change in M&O. And what this comes down to though too is we haven't had any changes in our ADM or anything like that. And if you remember or recall, this is part of all of that ARS 15915 where we recaptured money and things like that as well too. Good evening, Dr. Pingarelli. Oh, well, I wanted to let you get situated. So we just got started on the budget revision overview for the public hearing. So as I was mentioning, an M&O between December and May, we didn't have any change in our budget limit. Our classroom site fund, you will notice that there is a slight difference, and that is because in the rules that we have to follow, we have to use the most current ADM, the weighted ADM for classroom site fund. So you will notice in December, we had just a few more students than we did have for May. So it dropped less than $3,000. So. And moving on to capital outlay, there is a difference there as well too. And that is because of the revenue control limit. And this is one of the great features that's in Arizona revised statute is that when you're doing a budget, the legislature has the caveat in there that the revenue control limit is the lesser of the two, whichever ADE has calculated versus the district. And ADE has calculated the revenue control limit to be slightly less than what we had with that revision, bringing up the $6 million from when we did the 915 earlier. But you can see there's still a good balance in our capital outlay. And then in bond, that has not changed at all, which is good. The limit has not changed at all. We don't want the limit to change for bond either. And so that's 54,198,000. And so that is just the brief overview of what the May revision is going to be for tonight's meeting after the public hearing. So any questions? And this will be a voting item when we get into the official meeting as well too.
Any questions from the public? Okay, I don't hear anything. I guess my only question would be that $7 million that went away. Can you just give us a little more background on what that was?
Sure. So part of the calculation of the revenue control limit is looking at not only your ADM, but also the interest and your prior year expenses and any of your carryover for prior years. And through the reconciliations that I was doing from the prior years of data that may not have been added in, the law allows ADE to only allocate us the lesser of the two. I tried to grab the greater of the two and they said, sorry, not today. So.
We appreciate the try. Any other questions from the board?
No.
I
Okay.
think we're done.
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
I turn it over back to you.
Well, yes, thank you, Mr. Clerk. So, rotate it a little bit this way. Okay, we will now conclude the public hearing and
Do we need a motion to?
do we go? Okay,
Close it.
all right, so thank you. So now let us call to order our regular meeting, and Ms. Brown, just please note the attendance for our members. Okay, and I'm still having trouble with it. Turning my head, that's,
You know, it over there is.
yeah, maybe that'll be better. Just rotate a little bit. Just trying to bring this up on my computer. Just give me a second. Okay, so next item B is motion to adopt the agenda as presented or recommend changes to the order of the business. Members, are there any changes? Not, I think I will need a motion to adapt the agenda as presented.
Did you pull a couple items?
Well, we're still at,
We're on the agenda.
we're on the agenda, not at the consent agenda yet.
Okay.
So is there a motion to adapt the agenda as presented?
I'll move.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Strucker. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Members, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay, motion carries. Thank you, members. And now the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. Mr. Grant. Thank you.
All right, well, everyone, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let us just have a moment of silence. Thank you, everyone. Next is a motion to approve the minutes of the April 5th, 2023 regular meeting and the April 26th, 2023 study session. I will entertain a motion to approve. We'll need a second. And then if there are any discussion or changes, so would someone make a motion? Like to make a motion? Okay, Ms. Blizzard makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Okay, thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Changes to the minutes from April 5th. And or April 26th. Is there any discussion regarding this? Any changes? Hearing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, next, section 3, summary of current events. Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pingerelli. Wanted to publicly recognize, we had 3 individuals that received awards since last time we met. The first of which was Christina Guy, Northwest Council, won the ACTE Region 5 Counseling and Career Development Award, and will be competing for the national award at the ACTE Career Tech Visions Conference that will take place this coming November here in Phoenix. She'll be up for the national award for that, so we're hoping for great things there. Mike Johnson, Northwest Campus Assistant Campus Administrator, received the Skills USA Cornerstone Award. Congratulations to Mike. And Susan Leon, Work-Based Learning Specialist, received the Glendale Chamber and March of Dimes Mother in Business Award. So congratulations to those 3 individuals for their great work. Also received a letter from the CTE Curriculum Connection, and wanted to recognize some great work that our district and our partner districts do with developing curriculum and resources. Letter says, since 2011, the Arizona Career and Technical Education Curriculum Consortium has been dedicated to crafting curriculum and connecting educators. Annually, we serve over 2,000 CTE educators, reaching a span of 140,000 CTE students across both urban and rural Arizona communities. We would like to thank you for your support as it has made this impact possible. This year, CTE teachers collaborated to develop over 319 curriculum resources. The following educators from West-MEC Central and member districts shared their time and expertise to create these materials during the 22-23 school year. From West-MEC, David Million, Stephanie Stanley, and Julie Rodriguez. So I wanted to thank them publicly for all the work that they do, because without their work, nothing would happen in our classrooms. The letter goes on to say, in addition, we would like to express our gratitude for our Assistant Superintendent, Stephen Welch, who serves as our steering committee and director, Dr. Laura Jaime, who nominates and supports our outstanding CTE teachers and makes the connections possible. It's a pleasure to work with both of your administrator and CTE teachers. So I want to say congratulations for all the great work, because a lot of this stuff happens behind the scenes. If nobody recognizes it, you'd never know what happened. So just want to recognize the great work there. Since last time we met, I had the opportunity to participate in Dysart Unified's annual CTE program review. Probably about 200 plus folks who were there from the community, from their staff, from their schools and their parents. And I got a chance to present an overview of West-MEC and the updates that have gone on since last they met. And so it was a great conversation to be able to partner with Dysart and West-MEC. So it was a great time. Next thing is we had this was our first annual luncheon. I think Miss Beviar, I think was our first annual lunch with our CHOP folks, and CHOP stands for the Charter, Homeschool, Online, and Private School folks. We're going to make this maybe a biannual, maybe a breakfast in the fall, and maybe continue the springtime luncheon. And I was able to share with them my vision around career literacy, but I want to also share with you some data around our work in the CHOPS area.
So in 2021, our dual enrollment by our CHOPS folks, they achieved 206 college credits in 2020, 2021. In 21-22, that went from 206 up to 703 college credits. So we had a significant increase for those students. The credentials earned by our CHOPS students in 2020, 2021 was 292 credentials. In 21-22, that went up to 546 credentials for our CHOP students. And our application data so far in 22-23, the application was about 15% of our student population. And as of today, it's around 17% of our student population. So we have tremendous number of recruiting efforts going on around our schools, looking to add as many schools as we can get and be a part of. Not everybody is working with us yet, but we think they're going to come on board at some point in time. So really excited about the CHOPS data. Leadership West came to West-MEC. There's a group of about probably 40 or so, which we have a number of folks at West-MEC that are part of that. We got a chance to give an overview of West-MEC and talk about the great things that are happening in partnership with them. And then I want to make sure that everybody knows we have several very important dates coming up pretty quick. Project Search completion ceremony is Wednesday, May the 24th. From 4:30 until 6 o'clock at the Renaissance Phoenix Glendale Hotel. And I have not participated in that, but I understand it's one fantastic evening. So if you haven't been a part of that, be sure you let Louisa know that you're going to attend. And then finally, June the 2nd is our super day of our recognition ceremonies. Southwest Campus is at 10 a.m. Northwest Campus is at 12:30. Northeast Campus at 3 o'clock, and the Central Campus is at 5:30. And those are all being held at the Vineyard Church. So really trying to end the year well. Campus administrators, teachers, staff have done just a tremendous job. And I think when you see the data that we're bringing back following this year, I think you're going to see some really good results. So just very proud of all the work that's happened this year. Thank you, sir.
Dr. Spurgeon, thank you very much. Governing board members, are there any events or summaries of current events that you would like to discuss? Ms. Boozer.
Like to share, I attended something on April 27th. And it was a presentation that was given by our IT security instructor, Paul Getz. And I just have to say what an amazing young man he is. He wants to build a cybersecurity lab that will increase our students from 48 to 180. And I just think he's visionary. He is one step above the rest. You just don't find that kind of quality employee anywhere, teacher. I thought it was great. I was very impressed by him. So. All I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other member?
I'd like to share that got to visit Northwest Campus with Dr. Spurgeon and CJ and saw the amazing work that our instructors and students are doing there. Particular similar to the IT, the computer programming students, and how they're winning competitions all over and also using their skills to help other, I think CTSOs, the CTSOs build the trophies. They use their 3D printing machine to build the trophies. And that's one of the things that I love about our school students and the instructors is that they're able to use a lesson or a course and apply different skills to it and serve each other, you know, and the capacity that they're learning. And I like seeing that where there's that interaction and you use opportunities like that for the students to learn. And I was just talking to Dr. Parsons before the meeting. He was telling me about a project they have going on over there, a construction project, and how they're using that also as a community service opportunity. And I like seeing that because you're basically teaching students not only the technical skills, but also leadership skills and the importance to serve their community, whether it's here or abroad. In this case, it's in a different country, but either way, it's teaching them good skills. And the other thing I wanted to share is I was at the Phoenix, the Tolleson High School board yesterday, their board meeting. And I met two young ladies and their CTE instructor, a police officer. And they applied to this FBI leadership program in Flagstaff. They're going to that in this summer. So I was wondering if, I don't know, maybe I could talk to somebody later. I was wondering if we have any West-MEC students going to that leadership program this summer. That'd be cool.
You know, not that I'm aware of, but as campus administrators know that I don't believe that we do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'd be a good opportunity to, maybe we can reach out to that CTE
an instructor, a police officer, find out about that program. Yeah, it's an FBI leadership program and it's in Flagstaff. I think they spend a week over there, so it's a great opportunity for our students.
And Dr. Fink really shared an opportunity with the Department of Public Safety that we're looking to do as well. It could be another great opportunity for our students paid as well in some cases.
Thank you.
Ms. Wiley. Thank you, Mr.
I
Ramirez.
attended open house at Northeast Campus. And I got to go into Charlie Ellis's presentation. He definitely is an involved teacher. And I was quite impressed. Very interesting.
So thank you, Mr. Stroke.
I also got to see Charlie Ellison go through his lab. I had the opportunity to have West-MEC students repair the front end of my car where my daughter kind of hit the garage and not make it all the way into the garage. So they did a great job. Dr. Spurgeon saw the shops, and then I did get to talk to Charlie and I forget the automotive instructor as well about the program. So it's always nice to be able to drop in, and if you get a chance, drop into any of the campuses and just talk to some of the instructors and see what's going on.
Let's do it. They did a good job on it.
Very good. Okay, and as Dr. Spurgeon said, I had an opportunity to attend a luncheon honoring the families of fallen state troopers, and it was a tremendous privilege for me to attend. And during that meeting, I had an opportunity to talk with one of the officers who does outreach and representing West-MEC. I provided that information to Dr. Spurgeon and Mr. Welsh, and I think there might be some opportunity there. So that is what I would like to tell everyone. And is any other? Okay, thank you, members. Thank you very much.
Dr. Fingerly,
Yes.
mine board members, we'd love when you were able to attend with us. So I've been trying to look for some other opportunities for others to get involved, and so I'll just keep sending them. I've tried to get some of the youngers. I know Robert and Linda and Juan, since you're the three newest, I try to get you more maybe than the others since they've been here for a while. But I'm trying to find opportunities that may fit, in your schedule or somewhere maybe close to you. So just don't be surprised if you start getting some stuff from us. So we'd love to have you in the buildings. People like to see you.
I look forward to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you all. And so that moves us to reports, section 4. And Mr. Williams, you're on deck. And of course, as the spouse of a legislator, that's why I'm a little late today, is because I went through and listened to the votes on all, I think 18 or so budget verbs. So Mr. Williams.
Chairman Pingrelli, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon, thank you for the opportunity. I'm still trying to mentally digest the fact that both the Senate and House passed a $17.8 billion budget package in the last 12 hours. So I was very impressed to see you come into the meeting when you did, because I'm pretty sure I just saw you saw Representative Pingrelli on the floor not very long ago. Indeed, the Senate passed the budget package, budget bill 25-5 in the wee hours of this morning. Hopefully most of us were sleeping at that time. It's about 3 a.m. And then the House convened today to move identical budget package and reconciliation bills through the floor, and ultimately voted on it just a couple hours ago. And now it moves to the governor for signature, and she's got 5 days to act on that. So it's expected that we will see a signed budget in the next few days. Just some highlights. Again, the ink is still hasn't dried on my notes because this all just unfolded, but a lot of work has clearly been going on behind the scenes between Senate and House leadership and the governor's office and staff. And while we just see the headlines and the line items, there's a lot involved in the process, and a lot of staff and leaders involved in that. So of the 17.8 billion, about 8.3 billion is dedicated to public instruction in Arizona. Some items specific to CTED's, the continuation of the $1 million towards CTED completion grants. That's for students that or at least halfway through a CTE program prior to graduation, it funds the completion of that program post-graduation. $1 million for CTED soft capital and equipment. That is specific to those CTEDs with, I believe the cutoff is fewer than 2,000 ADM. So that's not something that would apply to West-MEC. And then $1 million for CTED certification exam fee reimbursements for those students that are sitting for those exams. Other additions to baseline spending, there's $300 million in one-time FY24 K-12 infusion to be distributed across districts and charters based off ADM, weighted ADM, to be used on maintenance, operations, unrestricted capital. 68.6 million shifted from results-based funding over to basic state aid. This shift is ongoing. 20 million ongoing funding for district additional assistance. School Facilities Board has gotten some building renewal grants, $183.3 million, $167 million to new construction, and $1 million to help with some of the facility inspections. Others get down into some pretty targeted funding asks that I think were important to the negotiation process. I won't go through all of them. But again, just pretty impressive. Other big headline as part of this, one of the concurrent resolutions was SCR 1041, which is the AEL override for FY24. You'll remember that was a hot topic this year as we were in the fiscal year, uncertain of whether or not that was going to be overridden, allowing us to exceed that aggregate expenditure limit. The legislature has addressed that early and as part of this process, so we can go into this next fiscal year with certainty that we'll be able to spend the money that has been budgeted for West-MEC. Also, a hot topic was that there was no cap placed on empowerment scholarship accounts, and some argue that this is a runaway train. Others argue that this is parent choice and is easily captured within the budget. My take is that nobody's really running up the hallways overly happy, so it's probably a pretty good budget. Nobody's too mad or too happy, so I think we landed in a good spot. On to some of the business development items. I think some of you may have seen some press releases around Innovation 27, and that is a partnership between City of Phoenix, ASU, Maricopa Community Colleges, and West-MEC. And the City of Phoenix is really championing that project where they purchased the old Kmart off I-17 in Northern and the surrounding area. They are they are taking on the cost of completely renovating that site as well as the building. And the partners then would just have the opportunity, if they so choose, to offer training programs out of that facility. So West-MEC is exploring some opportunities that might work in that space. One is a public-private partnership with a company called the AMS Group. I spoke on that topic earlier. I think it was in the fall. But they are really in need of refrigeration technicians. And this is not a pathway, a dedicated pathway that exists with its own credentialing that will need to exist with its own credentialing. So given their share of the US market, they really have a lot of influence in that space, and they have resources that they could commit to that project. So we're exploring possibly offering the first of its kind and something I think would really garner some national attention, a refrigeration technician program at that location. It's really a win-win for us. It aligns with our mission. It would in part be privately funded through the AMS Group, and the facility and building is funded through the City of Phoenix. So it's always good when you don't bear the expense. Yes, that would be an adult pathway. It certainly could be a piggyback to our HVAC program for high school students. So if they completed that, they could go in and specialize in a refrigeration tech program. Programming there could start as early as fall of 2024 in general. We're not required to offer programming by that timeline, but if we were ready to, we could by 2024. Strategic partnerships, we've talked just high level about our approach and the model that we're using and really how we engage partners in strategic partnerships. And we've kind of taken this on the road. We have the opportunity to present the West-MEC model at the ACTE Region 5 conference. It was very well received. I've got a lot of follow-up communications from that and looking forward to presenting similar information along with workforce readiness and where West-MEC sits in the workforce development space at the ADE Teachers Institute and Leading Change Conference this summer and at the ACTE Visions Conference in November. Last but not least, I think it's pretty much been all year. We've kind of alluded to this transportation modernization grant that is out there, and it has hit a couple of delays along the way, not on our end. But we're coming up to the actual notification timeline for that. And this time has actually given us an opportunity to expand the way our approach to transportation. And before we had talked about really a dedicated model to rideshare and the hop, skip, drive model where students would be moved kind of on a 1 to 2 person basis. But we're now looking at a menu approach that would allow us to partner with member districts and utilizing their existing resources, their existing fleet of buses and activity buses, as well as a lot of the micro transit options that have been popping up in the different municipalities. We Ride is in Avondale, Goodyear, and Surprise. Glendale has Gus the Bus, I believe. So that along with Valley Metro and this rideshare option gives us a menu of connection options to really help remove one of the greatest barriers students have to getting to West-MEC Central programs, which is transportation. Last but not least, the Superintendent Institutional Advisory Commission will meet for the second time this year, the end of this month. And you want to add to that?
One more thing.
Okay. Superintendent's Institutional Advisory Commission, May 25th at 11:30. Again, this is kind of a cross section of stakeholders from education, workforce development, municipal leadership, business and industry, all coming together and looking at the West Valley and how West-MEC can really support the pathways for students as well as the needs of business and industry.
Surprise partnership. City of Surprise.
Specific to dental or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Campus.
We have, we're partnering with Surprise on many levels. One is that transportation. In addition, they are very excited about workforce development and the opportunity it provides to their residents. As such, they've got a funding opportunity to help support Surprise residents take advantage of our new adult dental assisting program at the Northwest campus. We're working through that funding agreement, what that will look like, but it ultimately, right now, it looks like they're going to commit $100,000 to cover the cost of tuition for Surprise residents that want to be able to complete the adult dental assisting program. More to come. Yep. With that, I am finished with my report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Members, questions?
Will they be taking patients like Midwestern University?
And the adult program, they really don't have a student enterprise for the dental program. So it'll just be for training for those to come out and go to work in the real world.
You're not leaving. You're staying.
I will. I'm sorry. We'll connect after the meeting.
Yeah, 2 things. Going back to that $1 million grant to complete their program. Can we get the word out? Because I know within the last few months, I ran into a parent whose child was in the first year, their senior year, and they were under the impression that they couldn't continue. So they dropped out of the program. And the other thing I think there's an opportunity is we need to get the word out to our counselors, because if you're going into your senior year, you could sign up for the 2-year program because there's money for you to continue. And so is there an opportunity for us to better get that word out? Because I'm afraid it's great and I appreciate what you've done, but I'm afraid that the people who need to know about it aren't getting that message.
Vice Chairman Straka, it's a great point, and we're kind of stuck in a difficult spot because we're never certain whether that funding is going to be included in the next year's budget. We only know that it's right now included in FY24 budget, so we wouldn't be able to make that guarantee to a student that's starting a 2-year program. it's tricky to navigate.
With the students that are graduating this year, but only
Yes.
through year one, can we at least make sure and
They
make sure
will.
counselors know? Because I hate to see a kid drop out of something they love and the parents said, oh, he loved it, but he graduated, he couldn't continue. And that's just, that breaks your heart. And then, I'm tired of taking a lot of, on the transportation model, have we looked at hub and spoke? Because I know years ago, we looked at a hub and spoke model where districts would transport kids to individual high schools and then use a larger facility to take it. So like, as an example, a couple of schools would transport to North Canyon, and then North Canyon would transport to Northeast Campus. And so maybe that's another model we could look at.
And it is an effective model, and I think as we partner with member district staff, we'll really take on that shape. In addition, there's an organization called Formative who has really become a respected player in this space nationally. And they have learned about the West-MEC proposal and have offered to just kind of ride alongside of us as we develop and advance this proposal. And even if that means that they have the opportunity to find other funding sources to really take this to scale across our footprint.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Woods. Thank you. So next on our agenda is call to the public, and I believe we do have one speaker. And it is Brandonese Garza. Welcome, and you have 3 minutes.
Try to keep it in that timeline. Good afternoon. My name is
Brandy Garza, and I'm a veterinary sciences instructor at Southwest Campus. I'm also a proud parent of a student in our current programs. Prior to teaching, I worked as a technician with over 20 years experience, leading up to the management of a 24-hour emergency veterinary facility with 35 employees reporting directly to me. I served as an industry partner for West-MEC, and what impressed me the most was the professionalism, eagerness to learn, and self-accountability of the West-MEC students who externed at my facility as an industry partner. I would always choose to hire the 17-year-old West-MEC extern over the 20-year-old from any other program in the Valley because they were just always better. West-MEC is a cut above every other organization of CTE, and not only in Arizona, but nationally. Dr. Spurgeon challenged us, this district, to lead CTE education nationally. Not only did West-MEC show up for that challenge, beating nationally ranked Francis Tuttle mark at 83%, but we've surpassed it by nearly a 10% goal as we close out this year with career readiness. This is recognized nationally by the countless tours of West-MEC hosts from administrators all over the nation. As instructors, we are asked to mentor young men and women to emulate a high bar of set expectations for students. We, the instructors, are here for the students, always putting them first, keeping our personal and political agendas aside. West-MEC sets a plan in place for success, not only for students, but instructors and staff as well. Our model of education through curriculum and instruction, professionalism, hands-on learning through work-based experiences ensures our students are prepared for successful careers and financial independence. As a parent of a current West-MEC student, I was appalled at the board's display of unprofessionalism over the last 2 meetings. It was discouraging to witness that some members used this platform for what appeared to be a personal and political agenda. I challenged the board to consider how they would feel if they had witnessed teachers or administrators behave in the way I witnessed.
Ms. Garza, I'm
as-
going to pause you at this point because I'm not going to allow that kind of disparagement. I want to allow certainly free speech, but you know.
I'll cut that part out and just
Please
continue.
continue. Thank you.
Our district leaders should rise to the same bar set forth as West-MEC staff. So we should always be putting the student first above all else. So in conclusion, I urge the board to think about students first and to get on board for the agendas of what this district is and what's best for this district, which is always the students. So let us continue to set the bar for CT education, financial success, and leadership nationally, as we have already come to the table to do. Thank you for hearing me out.
So Thank you. So next on the agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda items. Before we go to a motion and a second, are there any items a member would like to pull from consent agenda 7A through 7H?
Yes.
Ms. Wisdom.
First, I'd like to pull. There is a grant stipend.
Which item?
It is
The
under-
HR report, I was gonna ask for the same thing. I was only gonna, I'm not objected to it. But
I
I
just
think
want more details.
So which item is it?
it's in the HR report, it's the grant stipend.
Under the personal tab.
So
Personnel.
Personnel tab? Yeah.
7A.
7A, okay, so we are going to pull 7A. Okay, we're not,
Clarification, we're gonna be moving 7A to action discussion.
yes,
Okay, so we're gonna be moving that later into action discussion.
right, we're not there yet. Okay. So is there any other item? So members, just please specify without any detailed discussion, which item you would like to pull by describing it specifically as stated in the agenda. Are there any other items a member would like to pull?
There's one more, 7G, the vouchers.
Okay, 7G. Okay, so we have Ms. Brown, 7A and 7B pulled and moved to separate action items. If I don't hear anything else, then for the remainder of I will call for a motion for all those items on the consent agenda, with the exception of 7A and 7G. I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
I'll move to approve everything except the two items we mentioned, 7A and 7G.
Thank you, Mr. Strucker. And is there a second?
You're motioning to move to action discussion.
And we'll move those two items to action discussion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Bosom, second. So we have a motion by Mr. Strucker to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7A and 7G, which will be moved to an action item outside, and a second by Ms. Bosom. So now I will call the question to approve the consent agenda under that motion. All those in favor designate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved. So now let's begin outside of that with 7A. And
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve 7A. The only reason I wanted it outside of the consent agenda is the stipend is not a regular routine item, so it shouldn't be in the consent agenda for Ms. Siegel's open meeting last month.
okay, thank you. And would you like to
I make a motion to approve 7A.
7A? And is there any, I will need a second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Ramirez. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve 7A. Discussion, questions? In addition to what Mr. Strucker.
And that was for the
7A, yes, right.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to clarify is, what was the job title for? Is it a full-time employee? Job description, is it a contract?
We have administration to respond to your question.
So thank you. So it's not a contract, excuse me, it is a stipend for an existing employee who is already a full-time employee. They're actually an accounts payable specialist. And due to the staffing shortages in the business services department, we are giving a stipend to an already full-time employee to help manage the grants that the district has. And it was actually an oversight on the agenda from last month to have that position on, or that stipend on there, excuse me.
And just to clarify, they do this outside their regular job. It's not part of their 8-hour day. So we provide a stipend because they do extra work some part during the year to manage the grants.
They have revisions, they have to meet deadlines.
Completion
And
reports,
it's-
drawdowns,
It's a $5,000. We're not tracking hours.
correct.
You do it as they come along. Like you said, there's revisions and it's just easier to do a flat sum. Right? That makes
And
sense.
there is discretionary funds within each of the grants that does permit us to have somebody do this in compliance.
Thank you. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, then I will call for the question to approve the personnel report that was formerly under consent agenda and call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those aye, say aye. Opposed? None? So moved. Motion carries. Now we will move on to item 7G. And I believe either Mr. Strucker or Bosoms pulled that item. And so please proceed. One of you, Ms. Bosom. Please proceed with your questions or.
Okay, I would just like a little bit more detail, on these vouchers. I found it to be very minimal, you know, I mean, there's some that are asking for, you know, like $120,000. I'd like to know, you know, what are the details? How is it? I mean, there could be several projects that are within the M&O. You know, what is that for? And broken down.
Sure,
That's what I was
absolutely.
asking for.
So in addition to the voucher cover page that does a summary by fund and total, there's also a voucher supplement that's provided to all the board members based on each voucher that lists in order of vendor name, along with the account code string that shows the funding stream that then matches to that voucher cover page and total, along with a description that's pulled straight off of the purchase order and the total of the invoice that's being paid. Excuse me. For one of the vouchers that I was reviewing, that was 112 pages alone. And we do approximately 2 accounts payable vouchers per week. And so what you get on your board packets is actually ratifying the payments that have already been processed and the checks mailed out. So this is you authorizing that payment that has already been distributed, which is part of an annual resolution that the board members sign at the beginning of every fiscal year. We do have we have the invoices, which would be the additional piece of information that is viewable at any time in our office.
This is point of order. They used to put that in the board book with so we could look at the breakdown of how that 120,000 rolls up. And we used to have, Barbara Thompson had given us the breakdown of what those account codes mean, so we could look and see, oh, $40,000 to this went to Northeast Campus and how that works. So maybe if we could continue to do that and then provide that breakdown of how the accounts work, that would resolve these kind of questions in the future.
So absolutely, I will tell you, even though I have access to all of those electronic drives, the naming convention, I still don't have access to everything. So I need to see an example if there's something that you're accustomed to seeing that you're not seeing now. And then I will have an idea of what detail and what information that you're looking for.
Maybe Ms. Booster, if you want to come in and sit down with Tracy, maybe you can take a look at what's available and maybe you can make a decision about what would be helpful for you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'd be helpful to the board, because I mean, when you start looking at all this stuff, it's just an overview of everything that you're asking for, and we need to know exactly what, in order for us to approve it, I want to know where it's going.
Well, and so the voucher cover page absolutely is an overview, but the detail that you get behind it is the itemized information. It's just not an exact copy of the invoice. It is a summary line.
That summary line was not in the board book this
Yeah.
month. It was just,
It was.
It's been attached to an attachment because it was way too many pages.
so I didn't see it in the board book.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's another thing. I'd like to see everything, everything in the board book, instead of having us have to go from here, where to there, in emails to track things down.
When I downloaded the whole packet, it was not in there.
Because board docs is limiting us on how we can access and put things on there. That's why we're being, that's board books. That's why we're gonna be moving to board docs.
Right.
So when we move to board docs, we will, yeah.
This is part of the limitation.
We're talking about, let's put it all in one.
And so starting July 1st, we will be with board docs, which will give you all of that and not do the restriction on the size.
Make it so much easier. We also have, Ms. Boosman, we also have previous board meetings that Mr. Straka referred to, that we can go back and look at an example of what Ms. Thompson provided in the past. You can take a look at that plus what she had and then come together and
Sure.
There was a document that she had that basically showed like the 15-digit account code, what the first 3 digits represent, the next 4 to 6. And I think sharing that will answer a lot of questions because it will start to make sense. It's like, oh, I see Home Depot here 3 times. So this went to Northeast Campus, this went to Southeast Campus. It's all the same thing, but it's 3 different campuses. And then it starts to, I think, make sense as you start to put it
All
together.
those codes and stuff like that. I should have a copy of that.
Sure.
So I would make a motion, by the way, to approve this item. We never did that when we started the conversation. I don't think.
We make that motion before we have the discussion. So let us do the motion to approve the item 7G. I need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve 7.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second. And is there any further discussion or questions? Are there any further discussion or questions for Ms. Rockwell? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving item 7G signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Rockwell. Okay, and that moves us to a discussion and action items part of the agenda. And first up is approval of the revised 2022-2023 expenditure budget. And we can first out, let me ask for a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve the motion or the budget revision as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Straka. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Ramirez, okay, I'll take you as the second. Okay, are there any additional questions or discussion before Ms. Rockwell?
I would just ask, is there any way, I know we talked about that $7 million that we could claim. Is there any way in the future we can claim that, or is that lost forever? I'm assuming lost forever.
It's gone.
Thank you. Any members, any other questions? Okay, so on this one, I will, because it's a substantial item, let's have Ms. Brown take a roll call vote.
Ms. Bosom? Here?
Yes.
Yes. I have you. Mr. Migley?
Yes.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Mr. Straka?
Yes.
Dr. Pingerelli?
Yes. So motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Okay, next on our agenda is approval of the 2023-2024 classroom site fund performance pay framework. And this is Mr. Welsh, and I am so much looking forward to your presentation, Mr. Welsh. You know, this is dear and dear to my heart.
Chairperson Pingerelli, board members, Superintendent Spurgeon. Thank you for that, Dr. Pingerelli. I am excited for you to hear about this framework this evening, and I'm even more excited that you're going to hear from the folks that help author it and the folks that really live it and are rewarded out of this performance pay system. So here very shortly, well, let me just do it real quick. Kadeem is an instructor for IT security at the Northeast campus, one of the participants of Classroom Site Funds. Then we have our Andrea, our career coach, also at Northeast campus, one of our participants, and Denise, our counselor from Southwest campus, and you're going to hear from each of them this evening, and they'll talk specifically about how the framework applies to their positions within the district, and they'll be representing their colleagues throughout the district. Just a real quick summary, though, as we talk about Classroom Site Funds. So in 2000, and last month, I appreciate Mr. Straka talking about taxpayers. We're very, very, it's front of mind for us at all times, working in a school district, about the taxpayer and making sure that we are performing in an area, with their money that they'll be happy of. And this is one of those areas where I think West-MEC really is a showcase. So in 2000, our public said that we really want teachers to have extra pay, but we want it to be tied to performance in specific areas. The legislation really outlines those areas where performance pay matters. And you can kind of see that here in the legislation. It talks about district and campus performance. This board has encouraged us to really consider the individual performance where we can. And I think you'll hear from these folks tonight that West-MEC has done a great job of really looking at where we can highlight individual performance as opposed to group performance. You'll hear from our colleagues that what they're used to in the school systems they came from is, boy, if students in AZM2 or Ames all passes math, well, then everyone got their goal, regardless of what they taught or what they did. That is not the case at West-MEC. It is highly individualized based on the different job duties. Of course, academic progress towards standards, retention rates, attendance rates, and then finally, satisfaction of our parents and our students through an annual survey. The legislation also very much requires the input of teachers, that we don't build the plan. We certainly can make suggestions and guide things, as I gave examples of in the past. The board has always guided this plan, but it is really authored by our eligible participants. When I talked about eligible participants a couple of years ago, back in 2000, we would have only had Kadeem because it was only our teachers. But the state really recognized that, yep, Kadeem plays a major role in making a difference for young people, but it's more than just Kadeem. It's also our counselors through support. It's also at West-MEC, our career coaches, in making sure that they understand the importance of credentials, pathways to credentials. So in 2021, we were able to add to the participants more than just teachers, but these other groups that you'll see here this evening. And then finally, the plan or the legislation really requires that not only these folks author it, but at least 70% or more have a vote and they pass the plan. So we could not come to you this evening unless at least 70% or more of these folks had voted affirmative for the plan, which over the last month, we have had votes at each campus. These folks here facilitated those votes on campuses, and we did meet that threshold. So with that in mind, as we talk about these eligible participants, there are just some other parameters I wanted the board to be aware of. We've talked before, boy, does someone have to stay all year? That is also clearly laid out in statute, that if somebody comes late in the year, it's prorated. If somebody leaves early for some reason in the year, they do not qualify for these funds. You have to complete the year in order to be qualified. So all of that is also very laid out in statute. So each year, what happens is these folks create a framework. The last several years, the framework has been very consistent. So it's been a consent item. This year, thanks to the request and leadership of the board, we did make some significant changes. I'll remind you, last month, you increased those dollar amounts that are in the framework that you see. Tonight, you're just kind of seeing the work that goes along with it to earn those dollar amounts that were already approved. But we wanted to present this to you since there were those changes to it. In addition, changes to the framework and the dollars that you saw. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to the real stars, and that is our folks right here. And Kadim's gonna talk to you a little bit about specifically the teacher performance framework and what that looks like. And then we'll move on after that. Kadim?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman Pingarelli, Superintendent Spurgeon, and honored members of the governing board. My name is Kadim Bernard. I am the coding instructor at the Northeast campus. Thank you for allowing me to speak here today. I have been a teacher for 9 years. 4 of those years have been with West-MEC. In my time as a teacher, I can undoubtedly say that what West-MEC is doing for students is above and beyond what I've seen at any other school. When it comes to hands-on education, leadership, and career readiness, we are second to none in the state. After being a teacher at West-MEC, I can say with experience that teachers and staff are held to the same standard so that we can provide the best for students. Teachers here at West-MEC are true educators that enjoy providing their students with the best education, training, and hands-on experience possible. To keep this environment, we work as a team with students, parents, career coaches, admins, and counselors, whom all have to be at the top of their game. For teachers to keep at the top of their game, we train in industry, we maintain our certifications, we create and support advisory councils to ensure our programs are at the cutting edge of industry and education. We use this information to develop curriculum that is industry and state standard aligned, but is also accessible to all learners. Many of our programs, like my own, are also dual credit certified, allowing for our students to have a leg up in the post-secondary pathway, and is a testament to our curriculum. Yearly, we meet with our admin teams to assess old industry credentials and program goals and make new ones so that they are constantly pushing us to be better and do better for ourselves and our students. We also integrate career technical student organizations like FBLA, HOSA, and Skills USA, providing opportunities for our students to apply their skills that they learn in class to real world situations. For example, my coding program has several events for FBLA where my students can create and design real world projects like website design and game design. These result in rewarding work is what West-MEC students have gained over 5,000 industry certifications they can use to enter the career field. Our students have a 100% pass rate for program assessments and an ever increasing amount of college credits earned each year, over 3,500 last year. Even with all this hard work and testing we put the students through, they're still coming back with a 92% retention rate and the waitlist for our programs next year. It is evident that we are providing our students with a top-notch education and opportunity, and all of this is only possible through continued generous support. Thank you, board members.
Denise is gonna talk to you a little bit about the counselor framework as well. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, Chairman Pingarelli, members of the board, Dr. Spurgeon. Thank you for allowing us to present to you today and really hearing the differences and, with teachers and counselors, as you heard from Mr. Welsh, we haven't been part of the statute as far as earning or being eligible for 301 money. This is currently our second year, or this right now for or being able to be eligible for 301 funds. So we appreciate the opportunity to be able to, as Mr. Welsh said, we've been meeting as a group. I'm representing the 6 campus counselors that we have at our campuses. And so you can see with the proposed fund, the plan in front of you, we have some highlights. Our framework and our plan is going to be based on our counselor evaluation, similar to everyone else. Discovery meetings. Now, this is something that you may have heard of before, but this is something that as a counselor, we love. We are able to meet with our students one-on-one along with our parents. It's our goal as counselors to meet with all new students and their parents within the first year that they're there. So what this allows us to do is to really help build that relationship with students and their parents, to let them know that this is a process. Discovery meetings, we are able to talk about their plan, their future. We think that this very much supports their achievement as they're growing in their program, and sets their sights on what they want to do. Okay, we always want to make sure that they have a plan afterwards and that we're there for them while they're here. So the discovery meetings is a really valuable tool enabled in our ability to do that. Another way that I want to talk about that we do is our multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. This is a support system made up of counselors, administrators, teachers, our ESS teacher liaisons, and it's really, if you think about it, you're wrapping your arms around these students, in that we are trying to find these students that are suffering, that are struggling, that are that maybe have problems with attendance, maybe they're have problems with grades, behavior, and we're identifying them in a way that we can all kind of see from different angles what they need. We meet with, at the Southwest campus, we meet weekly and we go over these students. We have a list of these students that we're just kind of continuing to watch and monitor and help. And we think these interventions are really critical to their success. Student culture, as counselors, we're all about building relationships. And we want to make sure that students feel like they belong, right? That they come onto campus and this is something that they feel a part of. We know that if students belong, they are less likely to struggle with their grades, their behavior, their attendance, you know, and they are able to feel a part of something that's larger than themselves. Program enrollment, okay. This is a piece that as counselors, we play a much larger role in than our traditional campus counselor in a high school. Typically, when I worked at a high school, the enrollment process was, okay, here you go, Mrs. Saldamando, make the schedule for the student. Our enrollment process is very much about our relationships that we have with our campus counselors in our member district high schools. And as Dr. Spurgeon talked about now, this kind of growing population of all these charter homeschool, online and private schools. We share these students. These are students that go to their home high school and they come to us. It's about that partnership. It's about those relationships. So we work very, very closely in this process in who the students, you know, who's chosen, helping them get through the process of actually enrolling and, you know, making sure that they're successful in their scheduling, make sure their schedules work for transportation and they can still get all of their core credits done at their high school and all of that. So that's really a big piece that we do here at West-MEC. And then our student retention is basically a percentage, and you can see it in the plan there. But that's our plan, and we hope that you support that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, representing our career service coaches, Andrew.
Yeah. Good evening, Chairman Pingarelli, members of the board, and Superintendent Spurgeon. My name is Andrea Calhoun, and I've been a proud member of the Northeast campus staff for the past 8 years, serving as the career coach for the last 3. As a career coach, I not only have the opportunity to interact with all of the students who attend the Northeast campus and their instructors, but also with the hundreds of supporters and employers from 10 different industries represented by the programs on my campus. Juggling all of these different stakeholders can often be stressful. However, knowing that I am helping students earn credentials, connecting them to externships, apprenticeships, and employment opportunities, and teaching them professional skills to give them a leg up in the workplace while working to close the skills gap and strengthen the West Valley economy gives me an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. Today, I would like to discuss a couple of CSF criteria items listed under the Career Coach Performance Plan that I believe make a significant contribution to the success of the district. Beginning with the industry credential criteria, the maximum award is based on 90% of Central Campus students earning a recognized industry credential, which is clearly a rigorous goal. The role of a career coach in relation to student credential achievement is critical, as coaches assist with the purchase and inventory of vouchers, serve as certified proctors, and work with instructors, campus counselors, ESS specialists, and often one-on-one with students to ensure that they have the tools they need to earn their credentials. Last year alone, I proctored 44 sessions of ASE certification exams for our transportation programs alone. Coaches are instrumental in the collection of certification data, ensuring that all credentials are accurately accounted for. Another criteria I would like to touch on is industry engagement, with a maximum award based on coaches planning and facilitating at least 20 industry engagements. We serve as the gateway for employers to connect with instructors, current students, and program alumni. We must be knowledgeable in everything CTE, West-MEC, and certifications, curriculum, and career pathways related to all programs on our campuses. Building relationships with industry partners is laborious but essential to the growth and success of our programs. These connections turn into advisory council members, work-based learning sites, guest speakers, and instructors, product donations, and employment opportunities for our students. As more people learn about our district and its unrivaled accomplishments and contributions to the West Valley, the more employers and industry leaders reach out to us. Coaches feel the vast majority of this networking. As West-MEC grows, the demand on our small team of just one career coach per campus will increase. Knowing that our experience, effort, and dedication to all West-MEC stakeholders is valued gives us the fuel to persevere. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you about my passion, setting up the next generation for career success and economic independence.
Thank you.
This, and you'll have a moment to ask them any questions, but this framework, I would tell you, really is the backbone of what makes West-MEC stand above the rest, right? I mean, first of all, of course, we have the most passionate professionals on our campuses that I have ever seen or had the pleasure of working with. But second, this framework that they've created really guides that performance along with the goals that you, the governing board, and Dr. Spurgeon, our superintendent, has set. It's why you see West-MEC exceed all others with industry credentialing, not only in the state, but in the nation. It's also what I don't think I may have been allowed to say this yet, but we just finished state testing, and these folks behind me and our campuses, our students outperformed like they haven't done before. We went from an 87% student pass rate all the way up to 91% this year. Again, because of how dedicated and professional these folks are, not only in the classroom, but on our campuses. Mr. Ramirez, you were talking earlier about professional skills. I just share with you, thanks to the leadership of our career services department, Andrea just this week tested 100 and the ACRC.
Oh, the ACRC. It was around 100.
Yeah, 100 students set for the state of Arizona now has an Arizona Career Ready credential. It measures not technical skills, but it measures those professional skills. So can these students engage in communication? Can they work as a team? Those are the things, leadership skills that are measured through the ACRC. And all of those 100 students passed except for one, and that's because that student was absent that day and hasn't made it up. But again, there is not another CTED or district doing this across the state of Arizona. And I appreciate that the plan that they built really aligns performance and pay with those things that we value. And with that, I will ask these folks to stand for any questions you might have about that performance.
Welsh, everyone, thank you very much. We will get to questions before we do that. Let's make a motion in a second, and then we'll entertain questions and discussions. So I need a motion to approve the 2023-24 classroom site fund performance pay framework.
Make a motion.
And I'll second. Could we just get clarification? Is this the framework? Is there a rubric behind it? Do we see the rubric? And will we see the differences between last year and this year and how it changes at a future meeting?
Who made the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay.
I just want to understand what am I seconding?
So, okay, all right, I understand. So let's now get to that discussion, Mr. Struggle.
So can we clarify, what is a framework and how does a rubric fit into that? And what specifically are we approving?
So thank you, Mr. Straka, Dr. Pingarelli. I believe, now, of course, we've had some confusion this evening, but in the packet that I have, the framework is there as well. You have the frame, can I look? I just want to make sure you have the framework too. Yeah. So if you look behind the presentation, yeah. So if you look right behind the presentation slides, you'll see the actual framework. So you'll see the rubrics that we spoke of this evening, the amounts that, and what I've done for you is I've highlighted where there were changes. So if you see yellow highlighting, that has been a change from previous years. The amounts, the dollar amounts, that's what you approved last month. So those have already been approved, but the actual rubric language that is highlighted for you, that is what you're approving this evening.
I have a follow-up. Let me begin, because I think it's very important that we do understand that, and I have some questions, and maybe Miss.
Could I just ask to get a paper copy of it? It wasn't in the, what I downloaded in board book.
It's attached. It's third attachment.
Okay, so I've always just downloaded the agenda report and it didn't come out in the agenda report. So could I get a paper copy of it so I could at least review it at this point? Yeah.
And
Sorry for interrupting.
yeah, so with that paper report, do all members, because we just handed out a paper report to the to a board member. The other board members don't have that. Does the public have access to what was just handed out?
It's attached to the agenda.
And so all members of the public can see that. Okay, very good. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Okay, and all board members should have access to that. I just want to make very clear. So so all three of you, thank you very much. And Mr. Welch, thank you for putting the presentation. Ms. Calhoun, I'm looking at you and I want to bring you up to the podium, if you don't mind. So, and you know, my acumen comes from 30 years of being in industry and doing hundreds and hundreds of reviews of managers, directors as an executive. So I need a point of clarification. So let's just say I'm a career coach. Okay, and I go through the year. And I presume that the person that is doing the review using the rubric and going to have a document is the site director. Is that a fair?
Yes, my campus administrator.
Your campus administrator. Okay, so I'm a career coach, and let's say that I score, I don't know, in the in some areas 100%, in other areas 70%, in some areas 80%, maybe one area 50%. How does that get communicated to that career coach that may be having some difficulty in some areas, and how does that affect their pay structure?
Well, the first item on our CSF plan is our evaluation.
Okay.
Highly effective, you get the full amount, and then it goes down from there. It's a little hard for me to wrap my head around that because I'm always highly. We set goals together. Our goal for the upcoming school year, we are going to transition from the Go Tracker, which was what we used to track our credentials this past year, which was very challenging, but I think we're in a good place now with our numbers, and we're going to make the transition to Transio. Okay. So that's my goal for the year, is to work with the instructors, work with the students. So each campus sets those specific goals with their career coaches.
Okay, all right. So if a site director sees that there may be some issue along that trek, or that trek of I assume they have the bandwidth, because they're not just evaluating a career coach, but a lot of other employees at their site. And is it fair, Mr. Welsh, maybe this is a question, on all of these evaluations in each of the categories, is it the site director that gives the evaluation?
It is, I mean, so some of it is tracked, like industry credentials is tracked through the district, so it's kind of, hey, you either made the goal or you didn't make the goal, but the communication is always through that direct supervisor. And it's usually the campus administrator for all these positions.
Thank you both, thank you. Members, other questions, comments, concerns?
I always have a concern when we do a dramatic change. Did we run this against last year? Meaning, what I don't want to do is change something and have it have a drastic input. So if we ran the evaluations for each of the three groups against last year, how would they fall?
Thank you. It's a good question. The one that would have been, we did do that, and all these folks were very, very smart to ask that same question, because of course they want to know, boy, would this impact me? The one that had the biggest impact was on our teachers, so Kadeem could certainly speak to it, but on the testing, on the program assessments, we did add some additional rigor there, so we would have had, if that was in place for this year, then, you know, teachers would have scored a little bit less, but the teachers felt comfortable because parallel to this, we've done a lot of work this year on our assessments, on aligning the assessments and knowing what's on the assessment. So our teachers felt comfortable with the change, even though that data suggested that it certainly would have been more rigorous. And Kadeem, I don't want to speak for you. Anything you might want to speak to that?
You actually covered it quite well. I will field any other questions you have within that wheelhouse if you.
And then the student achievement, are those numbers tied to Dr. Spurgeon's goals? Because Dr. Spurgeon has a student achievement goal as well.
That's just a board question. So I don't set Dr. Spurgeon's achievement goals, so.
But they should be aligned.
But they absolutely, like the credential goal absolutely is aligned. If you look at,
you know your goals.
yeah, if you look at our credential goal on here, it's very much vertically aligned with the superintendent.
That's one that we're taking a look at to see if we might be able to make one of that for next year. He was asking about next year's goal, I've already talked about.
Correct.
That
We met actually and looked at the state performance and started thinking about goals for next year and to make sure, because in June, we'll talk to our administrators that are in the room about district-wide goals. But under Dr. Spurgeon's leadership, we've made sure that it's vertically aligned from the onset. So by the time we go and sit with our campus administrators in June, we will know what the goals are so that we're aligned throughout the system.
And then on career coach. Student post-secondary plan, can we explain what that is? And specifically, I'm gonna channel my inner Mr. Kaltenbach. He always was opposed to sending kids to universities where our programs are supposed to send them into the workforce and taking away spots from kids who really want to get a career and not go to college. So I want to make sure that is not enhanced, not going against what we really want to do. So if you could explain that.
Yeah, this is an exciting one that I started, Andrew, you'll fill in holes, but we're real excited about this because this one directly relates to Dr. Spurgeon's vision of career literacy and us really leaning into the work we've done with the career trees and making sure that when every student leaves here, they have a tangible post-secondary plan. That what happens after they cross the stage of recognition ceremony isn't happenstance, but it was a planned action discussed with, you know, mom, dad, family members, so that they really put thought into their post-secondary plan. So when they leave us, they know that, yep, they're going into the career, or they're gonna lease a chair in a salon so they don't take on debt, so they can pay for their college education. But whatever it is they're doing, they're really gonna be purposeful about it. So we wanna make sure that when every student leaves, they have a plan. And I like to think Ms. Bussum for being you were at the last Teacher in Service where we kind of talked about this. So Dr. Spurgeon has just started to roll this out with staff. We'll do some more work with it this summer, but I think you'll be excited when you see us talk next year to you about these student plans. And Andrea is the one doing this work. So right now they're doing an exit interview, and that's really ramping up to become a full student plan for next year. But Andrea, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and we don't push students one way or another as counselors and career coaches. We are here to just field questions and have those conversations. Students will come to Miss Hook, our counselor, and talk about financial aid or picking a major, things like that. But then I have different students that come to me to ask me to help them write a letter to an employer, to set up an interview. So we're just here to help them regardless which path they're going down. And these plans are going to correlate with our career trees and the different levels on those trees. So wherever they want to go, we just want to help them get there, whether it be entry level or top tier.
So it's really not just post-secondary.
No.
So maybe we could call that something else, because when I see post-secondary, I'm thinking we're trying to send everyone to college, and so maybe that's not the right.
This is just a plan after the secondary experience. So when they leave secondary, when they leave high school, they have a plan. But yeah, we can absolutely lean in our good friend, Mr. Cook, to give us
Call it a career plan or
better
something.
name. Yeah.
Let me paint a picture for you. So the new 2.0 career literacy piece looks something like this, and Ms. Boosum, you were there, so it'll kind of help. But in the final analysis, there'll be a plan where students will actually be given a physical PDF document that they've been able to discover and basically create on their own. But this visionary plan says this: there's a couple of pathways. There's one where you can actually go into post-secondary studies, which all those pathways will be aligned so you can actually see them. If I go through energy and engineering, if I go through automotive technician, if I go through pharmacy tech, you'll be able to see where those pathways exist if they want to go to, let's say, college, 2-year, 4-year technical schools. But there's also going to be a pathway that will describe what 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different industry that reside within that geographic footprint, where kids with those skills and those credentials can go to work right now in Phoenix. And so we're going to be able to describe that so that mom and dad, parent, or guardian at the very beginning, before their student makes application to West-MEC, can see the end from the beginning.
And then I guess that goes into like the placement survey. So we'll know, hey, we had, and if you get 90%, amen, that would be wonderful. But knowing the students are making 50,000 a year, whatever they're making, then that feeds into the recruiting at the front end. So very good.
What are the numbers? I'm sorry, Ms. Wiley.
Can I ask you to just give me an example of campus and community engagement? Like actually what took place?
Yes. So as career coaches, we are pulled in a lot of different directions, dealing with a lot of different stakeholders. We are also asked to go above and beyond by helping plan campus events, the Follow Your Arrow event. I was the leader in creating the flow, the volunteers, getting everything organized, decorating, things like that. So this just.
So a kid comes to school. I mean, I just want you to say, they come, the parents come. I want to know who's there. Who do you talk to? What was their reaction? Just a real picture.
For like a specific event, like.
You should follow the arrow.
Oh, follow the arrow. Parents came. They got to see what their students signed up for, because a lot of parents don't know. They just sign a form, and these students come in and parents are like, well, what is this? What is my student going to do? So we are there to help them see the vision that their student had and grow on that. The parents had such a good time. We had nothing but positive feedback. The students were so excited. They got some swag. Some of them got to do conduit bending in the HVAC lab, and they took home a pipe, and it was just, it got them really excited. It got them engaged. We offered them additional engagement opportunities during the summer so we can have those touch points with them. That way, once they get into their program in August, they're committed for the full 2 years, 1 year, whatever it is. And that was the idea behind the Follow Your Arrow event, just to get everyone excited and committed to West-MEC.
One of the things is you and I both love numbers. One thing that's a bit frustrating is we really don't know every student that comes into West-MEC, what their intentions are per se, whether it's. I've heard from many parents that they said their son or daughter, niece, nephew had no intention of going to college, then they leave our programs and go on. What we don't know is that starting number. That's a bit frustrating because if we knew that number, it would answer your question, but it's frustrating because what you want to know is we believe our enrollment process puts the right student in the right program, but without that additional piece of information, you really can't say 100% for sure if that's the right student for the right program because we don't know what their initial intention is, really.
And the fact that when they come to us, they learn about other things, they grow, you know, and they see these other opportunities that they don't even know that exist, you know, so. They could change their mind a little bit.
So just to be clear, you have to plan or facilitate 20 campus events for the 100%. So that's like every 2 weeks, you're planning a follow the arrow or something.
That also includes advisory council meetings, mock interviews. I have mock interviews scheduled tomorrow. I do those with every program. So it's an attainable number. It was set at 10 and we upped that to 20. And that includes employer tours also. I do several of those every month.
What is that you do every month?
Employers reach out and they're like, what's West-MEC? Can I come see it? So I set up a time, we tour the campus, we speak with the instructor about engagement opportunities, partnership opportunities. We sit down and we create a plan that works for both of us, depending on the level of commitment that they have.
And then I assume that we'll kind of monitor this since it's first year and we'll come back and make recommendations next year, because if there's something that nobody hits, we need to lower the number versus the same thing. If everybody hits 100%, we didn't set the bar high enough.
Thank you, sir. Absolutely. We have a standing committee. That committee that created the plan will come back next year and they'll evaluate how it's going and, you know, how they're feeling and that kind of stuff.
And so, so we do this in, correct?
We do. And so the last several years, you haven't had this kind of presentation because annually the committee felt comfortable where things were at. Everything was moving along fine. And then this year we really did some changes to it. So we'll really monitor it again this year, come back and chat with you next year as we look at the framework for following years.
So, and I would just like to add though, so, you know, obviously the longitudinal comparison is very important, but also just in terms of the process, perhaps it would be good for members and the public to see a little bit of a flow chart, you know, very simple flow chart of the process we use, because sometimes bullet points can get you there. And, you know, maybe, so that's just something, that's just a consideration for you.
Thank you. We'll make sure to embed that for next time.
Mr. Strucker, do you have a question?
No,
Good. Members, any other questions?
I do have a question. Do we track students' incremental improvement? You know, so they might not be the top student, but they come in, they're maybe challenged. And then do we track where they started from and how they are improving progressively?
Absolutely. Do you? Yeah. And I think you can talk about MTSS a little bit.
So to that end, we have a pre and post assessment that we use to track where our students started and where our students end. We use that data to also fine tune our curriculum for individual learning. On top of that, we do have monthly meetings where our admin and us check in on grades, students, and we do that with our counselors, our career coaches. Everyone's involved in that kind of a meeting, so we can assess, and we keep a list of students that we keep track of, just in case, like you said, if they're struggling, those are the ones that we pay most attention to. That's how we assess that kind of information.
Okay, and what level, I mean, what do you consider success? It's like 10% better than what they did at the last assessment? How is that?
We do skill attainment, and then overall, like when they do the pre and the post, we're looking for, we set individual goals, like we said before. So like we'll set a goal for us to have a 15% or 20% minimum for, that particular student or our entire class, depending upon our class.
And is that part of the teacher assessment as well? Okay, awesome.
Thank you for tying that to teacher assessment. I don't want to deviate too far off of the agenda item, okay, so, or at all, actually. So any other questions, members? Okay. Dr. Spurgeon. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to thank the team, and I understand it's a big effort, a lot of communication between different parties, and like I said, I was at the Paulson High School District board meeting yesterday, and they went through the same exact thing. And but they didn't speak much about it, and so I didn't get a whole lot of sense of what they went through, but just from what you guys have shared, it seems like you did a lot of work, a lot of communications. And I'm happy to hear that you all talk to each other to make sure that your goals and everything align with each other, and all to meet that mission, that West-MEC mission. So I'm happy everybody's working together and has that same focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
And this was the other thing is that you have to look at this as a situation, we don't have any choice. You look at monitoring students' progress, you have a set of standards where those credential exams where they have to pass, no matter where they start, we know where they have to end. To be successful in those credentials. And we already know that Mr. Straka and Dr. Pingerelli are going to ask the questions next year, how many what kind of percent on each of these goals. So we'll be monitoring that as you've asked those questions previously.
And of course, thank you, Dr. Spurgeon. Of course, this is an extremely important topic for me, and so because I don't feel that, I mean, we're in a good place, we're in a great place, but unless this is a critical element for the organization, and I would echo Mr. Straka is that if everything is 100%, then we haven't done, everybody gets 100%, then that's great, but then we haven't set the bar high enough. And so, adjustments are made, and this is, sort of the domain that I came from, in an executive role. So I think this is very important. Other questions, members, comments?
Is there any public recognition for, for our teachers and counselors and?
I don't necessarily know that we do that for our CTE teachers. We're such a value add to our member districts, and we're working on a document that really will be a statewide document that will allow us to show anybody and everybody how much value we add to that A through F accountability system, because I'm not quite sure people understand it. So once we recognize our value, we're able to increase that value each time we work with our partner district, which gives them the opportunity to work with us even closer to say, wait a second, here's 3 or 4 missed opportunities that we can actually build our system around that will also assist West-MEC. And the more we do that, as the systems align, the better aligned we are, all the way down to the classroom.
Yeah.
But we probably should.
I would simply.
To draw attention, once we leave it that, that level of achievement, we should celebrate,
And the only thing I would add is, we certainly don't do enough to highlight these individual performances, but as a system, our classroom site fund plan and performance plan was certainly a part of why West-MEC was recognized by Cognia, formerly Advanced Ed, as being one of the top 5% school systems globally. So that was a great recognition, and it was because of the communication, the vertical alignment that you heard about. It was because of the passion, and these guys, you heard Andrea say it was 10 and they moved it to 20. They probably could have got away moving it to 15, but none of these folks did that. They all really stretched in creating these frameworks.
I would just go maybe on what Ms. Bussum was saying is, even just for the board to see at the individual teacher level, people who had a 95% pass rate on state tests or something, maybe gold star performers and maybe people who are 90 to 95, silver star, just so we as a board can say, hey, who are the teachers that are really killing it? It'd be nice to just, even if they're not here, just see their name at a future board meeting.
Well, to that point, both leveraging off of those comments, I think Dr. Erb and Mr. Williams will know this well. In Peoria, they always had the Pride of Peoria evening where special recognition was given to those administrators, teachers, and other employees that really stood out in their performance, and perhaps something of that sort could be considered, Dr. Spurgeon. So I think that's a very valuable thing. And it's an event where individuals from the community, elected officials, as well as family members of those employees are invited. And it's a very good event. So that would be something as a consideration. Thank you. So we do have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of this item or the site fund performance pay framework. And so is there any other discussion or questions?
I'd like to make a motion to change what is presented here.
Please, so we made a motion and we have a second.
Are
And
you
so
making an amendment to the motion?
are you making an amendment? Yes. And what is your amendment?
My amendment is, I think it's stellar that we are rewarding our brightest and our best. And I think we need to attain a high standard of achievement. And what I want to see is that we are rewarding, stellar performance instead of mediocrity. I would like to suggest that we just go with tier 1 and eliminate the rest.
I'm not sure I understand.
So if you're looking at all of these things, so let's say back to the teachers. So student achievement, at least 80% of students meet or exceed proficiency in a technical reading and math, and at least 85% of the students meet or exceed growth target for technical content. So it's 85%. So you'd have to meet that criteria to get a bonus of $2,000. So I'm saying let's just go with the tier 1. The rest of these are actually I'm seeing is underperforming. And I think we should reward the people that really are striving to be excellent. And instead of, just the average person that's not putting in that.
So let's see where that goes. You're going to have to clearly describe the substitute motion, because we already have Ms. Brown, help me out here with rules of order. So we have a motion and a second on the floor.
Yeah.
We've had discussion. So now if we have a substitute motion,
This is an amendment. I think you said.
this is an amendment.
But the motion was not made by this person.
Yes.
The motion was made by.
I made the motion.
Yeah, so Mr. Ramirez would have to make that amendment, I think.
I think anyone can make an amendment, but I haven't heard a second. And could I just ask a point of order?
Yes,
Because this is brought to us by staff, is the board allowed to make changes to it, or do we have to send it back for revision to the staff?
I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. By statute, it has to go back to the committee. Then the committee would, heed the advice and rework it, and then it would have to go to all staff for a 70% or greater vote before it could come back to the board. So if we failed to get that 70% vote, I couldn't bring it back to the board. and we would just keep the current plan in place.
Okay, I just wanna make sure with it, we're doing this correctly. And so we don't have our attorney here, so, and because this is a performance pay framework, just want to make sure we do it correctly. Thank you, Mr. Straka. So members, we have to have a discussion on this then. So do we want to, I guess we would have to table this item and have Mr. Welsh, so.
As a point of order, I haven't heard a second to the amendment.
Well, no, on the original motion, we had a second,
But I to Ms. Bosoms.
no, we have not
Heard a second.
I have not either. Does anyone want to make a second? At this time?
I mean, I appreciate where Ms. Bosom's going, but I think in the interest of time, I appreciate where you're going, but I'm afraid that it would result in penalizing the staff, and maybe we could provide that input for next year, that we expect excellence and we don't want so many categories. But I think that would be my concern. That's why I haven't seconded.
Is there anyone else that would like to make a second? On Ms. Bosom's amended. At this point, we don't, so that amendment is going to fail, and we're back to the original motion and the second. Okay, so any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none, Ms. Brown, I'll ask you to call the roll.
Ms. Bosom? Yes. Mr. Migliorino?
Yes.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
Ms. Wiley? Yes. Mr. Straka?
Yes.
Dr. Pingerelli?
Yes. Motion carries 6-0 with one absent. And I need to correct the record. I said 7-0 before. So thank you. So I'm correcting that record. Thank you, Mr. Welsh and everyone. Okay, next up, we have the Director of Curriculum, Instruction and Assessment. Dr. Laura, help me with it. Jaime.
Yes.
Thank you. I would have never got that.
It's okay. People call me Jamie all the time. It's fine.
Dr. Jaime, thank you. And I asked this item be pulled, it was originally in the consent. And I asked this item be pulled because we do have new members, and I really would like you to go through the process of what we do to approve, and in the interest of transparency for the community, I really look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
So thank you, Chairman Pingerelli, Dr. Spurgeon, and governing board members. I'm presenting to you, basically, we have to put textbooks on display for 60 days with you guys allowing that to happen. And then we have to come back and get the textbooks and curriculum approved from you. So the process in which we go through is we are on a 5-year rotation with all of our textbooks and curriculum to make sure that we say, number one, industry current, and that they're relevant and up to date. And so with that, certain things sometimes trigger a curriculum revision quicker than normal. And electrical trade specialty is one of those. This year, at the end of this year, we are basically between a mutual agreement, they're terminating the apprenticeship program with our current partner with electrical trade specialty. And so we're having to change curriculum based on that, because the curriculum originally came from that partnership. And so we have to go out and get new curriculum. So the curriculum has been vetted by the advisory council, and new curriculum has been presented along with the new code book, which is a handbook of all the new codes for 2023. And so that's why we're bringing forth that today. But all of our advisory council members have an opportunity to look at the curriculum and vet it and vote on it. And so there is meeting minutes and agendas for those.
electrical trade specialty had their meeting last week. And so I just got their minutes and all of their curriculum items from them. From that, and then the textbooks are on display out in the lobby. Once you guys approve that, and then there's public comment can be happening on those for those 60 days until we bring it back to you for approval.
Thank you. And just for consistency, I didn't ask for a motion in a second, but we'll continue with the discussion and I will try to be a little more consistent moving forward. So discussion, any members, questions, discussion?
Could we get an e-copy of the?
I don't have e-copies of this set of curriculum. I can send you like links of where you can kind of see the overviews and things like that. It really depends on the publisher. So for water and medical lab, they're out there and they're digital. This one just doesn't have that, but I can give you the link to the website and things like that if you want to see them.
Would they actually go through the
Yep.
book? I can have to come here and get it, or?
Yes, both of them are there out in the lobby.
Okay.
So you'd have to come here and review it, and then you write your name and make comments on the form that's out there.
I just have a quick question. I was gonna ask if there's an electronic version as well, but then that leads me to my second question. If we do electronic textbooks and the publisher changes it, do we have to do another 60-day review?
If they change the edition,
If they change the book, what triggers a 60-day textbook review? Because electronic textbooks can be updated more frequently. What would trigger a reviewer? If we approve an electronic, we don't have to go through another review.
they can update them. I mean, I don't think there's any reason, new additions and everything like that don't have to.
Require a review, only if we adopt a new curriculum. So if we went to a different textbook publisher, that would require a 60-day review, but new additions do not. Okay.
And I also have a question. So with, digital rights management and so on, with students. So for example, in cosmetology or in some professions where a textbook, the student would like to carry that on. Does the life of the subscription for an e-copy for only those things available, how long does it last typically, or is there a range? Can you give the board insight on that?
So it depends. So like cosmetology and aviation and the actual code book for electrical, not the code book handbook. Those are purchased through the student funds and the kids take them with them. So they do get to go with them. Lots of the times for the textbooks that we purchase, we try to get that 5-year subscription. Usually it's a 5 or 6-year subscription, and the main reason is we have a 5-year curriculum revision process. So it defeats the purpose to purchase a textbook longer if we're going to look at it and possibly revise it within 5 years to keep it current. But normally if like hairstyling, they get their book and they get to keep it and take it with them. All the others, we purchase yearly licenses. Like that 6-year license is good for those students within that program for that time frame.
You asking if they could access.
Yeah, so my question, so you answered a good part of my query. The question is, so student finishes a program and can they access that book post the program for a year or for 2 years?
Not normally, unless the book was purchased within the student funds and heads up.
Okay.
So like aviation does that because the kids take their books and keep them. That electrical code book, they take and keep it, and same thing with hair.
I just think, well, thank you for that answer. And that's what I'm finding too. It's just part of the problem in a post-secondary environment is when there's the digital rights management, the student has the textbook digitally, they have it, and they'll have it a little bit post the course. But if they're studying for a professional exam like the LSAT, the MCAT, well, they might want to go back to that.
And look at that book, yeah.
And they can't. And so, are there areas within the disciplines and that we teach where the textbook would be possibly needed beyond the course, and the student would want to refer to it. It's a consideration as you move forward with negotiation with publishers. I know they're somewhat immutable, or they don't like to move on their their standard practices, but certainly I find that a disadvantage for the students in some cases. So I want to do anything we can. When they can't get a physical copy.
And we usually purchase a classroom set, so they have a physical copy in the book or in the classroom that they share amongst the students in the program. And then we have all the digital licenses that implement into our learning management system and stuff. So most of our books, so even this electrical curriculum will end up having a digital textbook. They just don't want to give us access to the full digital textbook until we pay for it. But the teacher edition and outline and all that curriculum is in the binder.
Thank you. Thank you, members. Any other questions? Okay, so we will need a motion to approve or the approval of textbooks on display.
I'll move we approve or place the textbooks on display for 60 days of public comment.
Okay, and I will second that. Okay, any further questions, discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Brown.
Ms. Bosom? Yes. Mr. Miguel Moreno?
Yes.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Mr. Straka?
Yes.
Dr. Pingarelli?
Yes, motion carries 6-0 with 1 absent. Thank you, members. Next on the agenda is our approval of our 2023-2024 governing board meeting schedule. And I see that it is attached in board books, and hopefully all members had an opportunity to look at that. I know that there are things that come up, but unless there are some real serious objectives or objections, I would need a motion to approve that.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented, the governing board meeting schedule.
Okay, and a second. Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Ramirez and a second by Mr. Straka to approve the 2023-2024 governing board meeting schedule. And I will call for the question. Ms. Brown, you want to call the roll?
Ms. Bosom? Yes. Mr. Miguel Moreno?
No, I always object to that April earlier date, because that conflicts with the schedule that I have. I do that every year best, so.
What is the reason for April? I'm sorry, we never had that
It's
chance.
the ASBO spring conference.
In Region 5, I believe.
It-
Region 5 and ASBO.
That's what go on, I just don't agree with it.
Okay.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
Ms. Wagner?
Yes.
Mr. Straka?
Yes.
And in explaining my votes, Mr. Miglerino, when you're at ASBO, you can get a cocktail or a cup of coffee and join us on Zoom if you so desire. And with that, I will vote yes. Motion carries 5-1, excuse me, 5-1 with 1 absent. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is a review and possible action regarding the ASBA 2023 agenda, adoption of the top 5 priorities and any additional issues for ASBA that we may want to send to them for the 2024 political agenda. And I know this is a topic that we deal with each year, And I think there's an attachment to this, and I'll just open it up for discussion. Sometimes we've gone through this and we've just, no one's wanted to vote on it.
No one wants to be the delegate.
And no one wants to be the delegate. And so,
I'm picking the delegate today.
yeah, we're not picking the delegate today. So we're just reviewing possible action. And do members have any comments, questions, concerns?
Does staff have any recommendation for the top 5? Or administration?
I mean, they're very broad, so there's not too many things that won't fit under each one of these categories. You know, so they do it that way, so you could modify, tweak, and turn if it fits someone's narrative or agenda.
Is there any specificity that we have? I'm looking at Mr. Williams because and Dr. Spurgeon's for
I think there's a
CTE.
few things that you wanted in the legislature this year that you postponed.
I can share, in addition to, well, through the CTED consortium, they come together as superintendents and leaders across Arizona CTEDs, and they compile a list of 5 of their shared priorities. That's then taken back typically to those 14 respective governing boards for consideration, certainly could be modified. But as a career and technical education district, I think there is some strength in having some shared priorities across the state through that CTED lens. I can certainly share with you the 5 that were surfaced this year out of that group. And maybe that can serve as a starting point for our governing board consideration. So the first one was just kind of a broad, provide funding and support for teacher recruitment and retention that results in improved teacher pay and enhances educational support services. The second one is fully restore 9th and 13th grade CTE CTED eligibility and funding to increase access to work-based learning and expand the window of opportunity students have to complete industry recognized CTE programs. The third is increase access to CTE students by allowing CTED school districts to receive adequate transportation route mile funding to transport students to CTEDs. 4 is consolidate reporting requirements and eliminate duplicative mandates that result in additional administrative costs, aim to streamline reporting to deliver efficiencies across the system. Number 5, reauthorize CTEDs to serve students through age 21, regardless of graduation status. Number 6, reduce the number, and this was one that was surfaced, I think, in years past by some school board members. Reduce the number of signatures required to be collected by a candidate for a CTED governing board that fairly represents the area served. Number 7 is equitably invest in technology modernization, reliable internet broadband access, technology support capability, and professional development for all students and staff. Happy to share this document with you as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
There's a few of those that I always get, I cringe at hearing words adequate, equitable, because they're too subjective. And because you say adequate and the legislature will say, we adequately fund it. But the ones that I like in that list that are to me very definitive and clearly defined are number 2, 9th and 13th grade funding. Number 3, transportation for CTEDs, and number 5, CTED education through age 21. I think those 3 are very clear, achievable, and definable goals. Anything else I just feel is too subjective, and I don't want to get into it just, you know me, I like it to be clear and achievable and definable. So those 3, I would say we should move on from Mr. Williams because they're actionable and measurable.
I would concur with items 2 and 3. I would have, just because I've been in these discussions with CTED funding starting at 9th grade, I just want to understand because the cost is enormous. And I know this discussion has gone on down at the Capitol with lobbyists and legislators. And I know that the questions were asked, what is this going to cost? And no one gave a clear answer. No one. And
Are you referring, Chairman? Pingerelli, are you referring to the cost of four-year funding? Okay.
Yes, 4-year funding. And so I'm okay with leaving that on, but that's the big question that is going to continue to be asked. And so I would ask that question to you and to Dr. Spurgeon, which programs require here 4-year funding?
That's from the approved list.
Correct. So they would need to be on the regional in-demand list in order to qualify. I think in terms of true cost, given the timeline this year, it was a little bit difficult. We could give you a cost for West-MEC. I believe Mr. Welch in our business department had put together based on current year numbers and funding. We did project that cost. I think we were at about 2.3 million for West-MEC as an additional cost to the state. You could extrapolate that out across the 14 CTEDs. The JLBC put that cost at 43 million for the state. So there is a formula difference there. I think that would need to be explored more.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
That number 43, and but there hasn't been much clarity in asking why is it 43 million? What's the analysis? What are the programs that require that level? And that's where there's been a lack of clarity. I'm okay, I guess, with those 3 items as Mr. Straka has presented with specificity in the CTED. But I'm just saying that that's going to be an issue that ASBA and our lobbyists are going to run into some bumpy air, I think.
So are you seconding my motion?
I'll second your motion.
I'm just trying to move us along, so.
I think so. That's good, but I wanted to have that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm picking up a little bandwidth, Mr. Miglorino here on time, but I will second that motion.
Mr. Williams, can I have this copy?
Yeah.
I circled the 3 that they have.
Okay, part of the motion also states that you authorize Board Secretary Louisa Brown to submit priorities online.
Yes. So do we need to restate that motion, Ms. Brown?
No, you can go ahead. I've got your motion. Number 1, fully restore 9th and 13th grade CTE, CTED eligibility and funding to increase access to work-based learning and expand the window of opportunity students have to complete industry recognized CTE programs. Number 2, increase access and equity to CTE students by allowing CTED school district to receive adequate transportation route mile funding to transport students to the CTED. And 3, we're authorized CTEDs to serve students through age 21 regardless of graduation rate. So instead of presenting 5 top priorities, the West-MEC Governing Board will be presenting 3 top priorities.
Thank you.
Welcome. And also authorize Board Secretary Louisa Brown to submit the priorities online.
Thank you. Members, anything else? We have a motion in a second. Call the question.
And can I have who you motion? And second?
I see, yes, Mr. Straka and I second.
And roll call?
Yes, please.
Ms. Bosom? Yes. Mr. Migliorino?
Absolutely.
Mr. Ramirez?
Yes.
Ms. Wiley?
No.
Mr. Straka?
Yes.
And Dr. Pingerelli?
Yes. Okay, motions passes 5-1 with 1 not voting. Thank you, members. Next up is. I think I got it on board books. Dr. Cooking, CPE Director at Peoria Union High School District. Welcome. Look at your face.
We made it.
Governing board members, Dr. Spurgeon, thank you for having us here. We're excited to share some highlights from Peoria CTE and our partnership with West-MEC to prepare the future workforce. Few facts about Peoria. We have 26 high school program pathways within our school district. We went from 25 to 26 years this year, adding network security. And when you add on the additional programs that our students have as juniors and seniors with West-MEC, they have over 47 different career pathways to explore and develop skills while they're in high school. We have 7 comprehensive high schools, and within our high schools, students have the opportunity to co-enroll. So if we don't have a program at any particular high school, they can co-enroll at one of our other high schools and go there for those programs. And we also have 34 elementary schools where we have a program in our 7th and 8th grade called TLC, Technology Life Careers. And this is where students we focus in on doing some real strong career exploration, building some of those technology and professional skills to get them ready to choose classes at the high school level and prepare for their futures. When we look at the programming that we offer both at our campuses and through West-MEC, we're really looking at what is happening in industry. And we take a look at this on an annual basis and look at what's in demand and where we can help fill those demands. So right now, I'm sure, as you all are aware, healthcare continues to be an area that we need to focus in on, as well as all of the advanced manufacturing that's moved in the past few years. The logistics and supply chain, if you drive down the 303, the number of warehouses and has tripled in the past few years. Construction continues to be high growth. Bioscience, our hospitality and tourism, I think, will always stick with us in Arizona because it's a great place to visit and be. Information technology and finance and insurance. So as we look at these high demand areas, we need to determine how we can best prepare students for them in the state of Arizona. So with that, one of the areas that we've focused heavily on this past year and a half has been healthcare. And unfortunately, I had one of our teachers and students with me, but they had to leave, so I'm going to cover their part. Within our school district, we have in the healthcare area, sports medicine, medical assisting, nursing. And then we just last year offered a CNA internship over the summer in partnership with one of our industry partners, Ensign Group. And that's what Tristan Palmer, sorry to go back, she was going to highlight. She's our nursing instructor at Sunrise Mountain. And to be an instructor of nursing, you actually have to be a nurse. And you have to get the CNA licensing, they have to pass the state board exam, and there's a lot of guidelines. So to find instructors to teach that throughout the district is difficult. So what we did is offer students throughout the district a internship over the summer where we pay for their coursework and their teacher and their CNA license, and it's actually at the partner site. And students from throughout the district could sign up for this, meeting some minimum criteria, do the internship over the summer. We did our pilot last year with 14 students. All 14 students earned their CNA license. All 14 students were offered jobs by Ensign, and many of them were offered additional tuition assistance to further their education in healthcare. This pilot was so successful that other businesses found out about it and now want to do the same thing with us. So we've tripled in size. We are offering that CNA internship in the spring and in the summer. And we're really excited because it's helping obviously fill the demand in this area, but it's also giving students these opportunities in high school to earn these certifications, earn wages, and also funds for their future education. So it's been something that we're very proud of and excited. And Tristan Palmer, and we had a student from RSK High School in Alondra Salinas. She went through the program last summer, and she will be happy to share any information with you guys in the future. Sorry, they had to go. They had other commitments. I'd like to, at this time, bring up Christy Hammer. She is the principal at Cactus High School, one of our 7 comprehensive high schools. And we have worked together for the past few years, being very strategic on the offerings. And she's going to talk a little bit about that.
Good evening. So Cactus High School is a Title I school. My biggest job is to make sure that I'm leveraging opportunities for kids, that every kid has an opportunity to do something fantastic when they step out of high school, whether that's college or whether that's a career. I talk to parents all the time. It's not about whether or not your kid's going to university. It's about what opportunities do they have here to put them on a trajectory for whatever it is they want to do. Because I think we have to get away from this old paradigm that everyone's going to a 4-year university. And I think CTE allows for that paradigm shift. So 6 years ago, we determined that we wanted to be a pipeline to industry, and that has been our focus. And we looked around at what was needed out in industry. 60,000 jobs were being unfilled in cybersecurity. So we chose that as one of our pieces that we were going to take on at Cactus. We also have a hugely successful robotics team on our campus. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but they are ranked 3rd in the world at the World Championships. We've gone the last 5 years to the World Championships. We competed against 600 teams this past April, and we got 2nd in our division. We lost to the world champions. So very disappointing for us. But what's exciting about that and being a part of that program more and more is that I realized that it leverages kids anywhere from an IEP to an AP kid. It doesn't matter. Every kid comes out with employable skills, and they can compete in any industry. And that's what I love about these CTE programs. We also looked with our cybersecurity. We didn't want to have things just become singletons. So we really, in terms of, this is just cybersecurity. So our cybersecurity partnered with our ROTC program, and they worked on Cyber Patriot. We went from last in the state to 5th in the nation this past year in Cyber Patriot because of that partnership. Our robotics club and team, we started because of the success of that. We started the robotics and automation class on our campus to really, I guess, put more STEM education out there to kids, right? Because a lot of kids don't know what robotics is. Right now, there's a documentary that's going to be coming out about Cactus High School and our robotics team. So we're excited for that opportunity. Our kids also have the opportunity for drone certification. They can get pilot certification through our programs. And we also just started the electric vehicle on our campus this year, partnering with Lucid Motors. So because of these different partnerships that we have going on, our AD has reached out to us. I've got so much in my head I want to share with you guys, and I know that people don't want to wait a long time. The Arizona Department of Ed reached out to us and partnered with us in a community program where we are going to be mentoring 6 rural schools to really put robotics programs and STEM education onto their campuses. CS for All also reached out to us. We're one of their major partners now because of what we've done with cybersecurity and computer science on our campus, and we've started different STEM programs. We have a STEM club on our campus now, along with our robotics club. They push into our elementaries to give them STEM education and really inspire kids to want to look at different avenues because they don't always have that exposure. My big premise is that I want kids to take as many things as possible at high school while it's cheaper, right, or free. And so I want to expose them to as much as possible. Not a single one of us typically knew what our career was going to be when we were in high school. I mean, if you would have told me I was going to be a high school principal, I would have told you were crazy. It's never going to happen. I don't like talking in front of people. And now you give me a mic and you can't shut me up. So none of us have really thought about that until you have exposure to things. So I want kids to get exposed to things, find things that may be their passion that they never realized, and find what they're good at. I have a kid who just graduated from Cactus last year in cybersecurity. got into the profession in cybersecurity, just bought his first Tesla, love him, hate him at the same time. I can't afford a Tesla. I have a master's degree and he has his CTE certifications from cybersecurity. Another one of our kids graduated from our robotics program and he's now supervisor at Ball. And he's just 21. He bought his first house at age 19 because of the opportunities at the height of the housing market, right? I mean, I didn't buy a house at age 19. Yeah, that wasn't happening. So it's exciting what these kids have for opportunities. I just appreciate the partnership that you guys have with us, because without your partnership, we would not be able to expose our kids to so many different opportunities. So I want to thank you for that. And if you want any future partnerships, Cactus is looking for those. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as you can see, Christy's very enthusiastic about CTE and she's been a great partner when we want to try something new, when we want to expand. She's someone I always ping and we talk through it. And if it's right for kids, it just happens. We make it work. So we appreciate that. All of what we're talking about here is making sure that our kids are college and career ready. Some things that we've done through our district to have events and expose them to different opportunities in addition to our coursework. We have a career pathway expo that we host at Cactus High School, and we target this towards our 7th through 9th grade students and families. I hate to hear from our community members that I didn't know you had that, or I wish I had known you had that. It's so infuriating, right? We want all of our community members to know what we have. So we have this particular event and we invite West-MEC. They come every year because that is an extension, obviously, of what is available to our students. And so that's successful. We had over 1,000 different family members come to that. We also had a college fair at the Peoria Sports Complex where we had over 70 different colleges and universities to talk about different opportunities. The whole idea of I'm going to college or I'm not is really blurring, right? I may not start in college, I may get there eventually, I may just do this fast track program, the certification. It's not an or anymore, it's kind of an and. And so there are a lot of opportunities for students to learn about that at the college fair. At the end of April, we had a career fair where we had 54 different industry partners from everything from TGen and bioscience to construction companies to 54 different unique opportunities for students to learn about throughout the district. And we invited our community as well. So that was very successful. And then we continue to work on having more opportunities for our students to have work-based learning opportunities. We already have internship class, but we think that we need to expand this further. We have mentorships going on, we have job shadows, and we are hoping to progress with some pre-apprenticeship youth apprenticeship programs coming soon. So that's what we're working on there. So obviously none of this happens in a silo. We have a number of strategic partnerships that are very, very important. We just finished a pilot with the Center for the Future of Arizona where we had some virtual internships. While I don't think anything can replace hands-on experience and being out there and seeing it and feeling it, for students who maybe can't drive or we couldn't find an internship for because they had to be 18 or something along those lines. There's some alternative methods out there, and CFA piloted this with us, Yuma and Sunnyside in Tucson, and it went really well. And we're having 5 more kids go through that, and they pay the students a stipend to go through it, and they work on a project with a mentor. So it's a good alternative. It's not a replacement for that in-person internship, but it has been a good alternative for us. We do some work with the AZ Educational Foundation to teach STEM in our early childhood and ed profession classes. We started an ACE mentoring program, architecture, construction, and engineering with McCarthy at our Net Professional Honors Academy. And we've been partnering with ASU Entrepreneurship and Innovation to to help build a youth entrepreneurship ecosystem in the West Valley. So all that's been exciting. And again, the partnerships are what make that all work. So ensuring that we have state-of-the-art programs every year, we have active advisory boards. We work with West-MEC on the total quality indicator process, and that's been very, very helpful from a number of different perspectives for our teachers to hear from West-MEC and other leaders throughout CTE, how they're doing. It gives them some validation. It makes them feel appreciated, and that really works well. And from when we bring them, the TQI team out, our administrators get involved and get to hear from a third party on how things are going and get some input. Quite frankly, sometimes I can say things over and over again on what I think we should do, but when we have the TQI team come out to validate that, that can really help push us over the edge sometimes. We do a mastery of subject area graduation endorsement. So we're just in the process of doing this right now. So if students reach a mastery level, meaning they got an 80% or better on the TSA, they completed a coherent sequence, they had a work-based learning experience, they did a micro-credential in professional skills, then they get this medallion that they get to wear at graduation. And we have over 200, almost 300 students this year who earned the mastery of subject graduation endorsement. So we're real proud of them, and we look forward to honoring them at graduation. And finally, we're working a lot with our dual enrollment and post-secondary partners, so our students can continue to get college credits while they're in high school, get some of that out of the way so that they can hit the ground running when they leave us. So we just want to say thank you for this opportunity and the continued partnership that we have with West-MEC. We appreciate the support that we get, and we look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Nicolino, question. Comment.
Thank you for what you're doing for our students. Obviously, terrific job. But also thank you for the enthusiasm in which you delivered tonight's presentation. And that's why the kids are successful.
Or she's been enthusiastic. She's hard to go after. So.
I would just echo both of you are very enthusiastic, and it just makes the presentation so much more. I'm engaged because you're enthusiastic, so I'm sure your students are the same.
Sure, the two that left would have been just like.
Yeah, they would have been great. Okay, yeah. We'll get them back in.
I do have a question for Dr. Spurgeon. You had mentioned about college credit. I almost feel like, is there an opportunity for us to act as a clearinghouse? Because you have college credits for certain programs, and I'm sure Paradise Valley and Deer Valley have the same classes. And is there a way we could maybe facilitate and help all the schools get those college credits for students a little easier instead of all building their own program improvement?
Marilyn, I'm gonna let you jump in here real quick and talk about that, but every program is a little bit different because there's certain criteria that each individual classroom teacher has to meet in order to be able to qualify to be able to offer the credit itself. But as it relates to, let's say, for example, if Cactus High School has 300 students that are getting enrolled classes, I don't know that you can combine that with West-MEC because it's all.
What I'm saying is, like, Cactus has physical therapy, let's say, and O'Connor has physical therapy. You might have partnership with, I don't know, Miracle or somebody, but does O'Connor have that same partnership? And so just making sure that, you know, across the board, everybody gets those opportunities, because college credits are a big deal. And is there a way we could help facilitate getting everybody to get those college credits?
I'm gonna make the assumption that the individual context probably somewhat the same in many areas.
Yeah, so we, at our local directors meeting, we often have both GCC and Australia Mountain Community College there, and we've been doing tours as districts and bringing our counselors there, and so there's a great partnership. And it's just, you know, you have to have teacher credentials to be able to teach that dual enrollment. And so we're excited about that potential bill coming out soon, where we can pay teachers to go back and get those credentials they need. Esperanza is also working on some PLA, if you want to kind
Yeah.
of talk a little bit more about that.
So mostly though, the community college is really our partner in that. So as we work with Maricopa and every program is a different community college. So that is also the piece that every one of our districts has like a coordinating college. So Southwest Campus really has Estrella Mountain. And that might be Buckeye and Agua Fria, but Peoria might be GCC, yes?
It's mostly GCC.
And Dysart is mostly Rio Salado. So the community college has kind of created it for us. They are that person that we have these coordinating colleges, but sometimes you might want culinary and Phoenix doesn't, or, I don't know, maybe
Yeah,
GCC doesn't have culinary, so they have to go with Estrella. So there's a little bit of that that's a little difficult, but we've worked that out. But what Barbara was saying about us coming together and going on these tours and learning that, and counselors coming together, there's a lot of work with that. But PLA, when Speranza Cleese presented just a few months ago, is called prior learning assessment. And really what's happening is there could be less dual enrollment because we'll have more PLA, which means right now for welding, we're not going to have welding as a dual class anymore because those students, when they finish our welding program, can just go to Gateway and automatically get their credits because they take what West-MEC has as well as that certification. And Speranza is working with the community colleges to create them more and more and more and more. So now a whole class could really say, I have these college credits, because all they have to do is activate them by going. So I think it's changing, and I think we're going to watch that change. And sometimes if we see less dual, that doesn't mean there isn't just as much college credit going on. But the partnerships are there, the relationships with the counselors are there, the relationships with the CTE directors is there. So I'm pretty proud of how we do work together.
Oftentimes you'll see silos of phrases, is what you're probably referring to, that things are just kind of sporadic. They're kind of just fragmented around. But because of our work with the CTE directors, each of them jump on the same opportunity because it makes it more efficient and more beneficial for all the kids. And you don't find that in many places. Usually it's pretty much fragmented.
Yeah, we rely on each other a lot and share best practices, and it's an important cohort for sure.
Any other questions? Yeah, I had a question regarding the CNA internship. How many of those lead to jobs or scholarship opportunities for further education?
So we started it last summer with the 14 students, and all of them were offered jobs, and they didn't all take them, but I think it was about 8 out of 14 were offered jobs with Ensign Group, and I think 5 of them were offered scholarships. So we're starting small number wise. So we have the nursing program throughout the school year, but we only have the one instructor, right? So they're doing all of this out at the site so that we don't have to just have that one instructor. Ensign Group and other companies are partnering with us because they saw how great the students were and the ability for them to earn the CNA in the summer. So now we have a cohort going through in the spring, and we have Hospice of the Valley. We have all these other companies saying, hey, we like this model. So we're trying to filter that through. So right now, all of them could have had a job. They're just going into their senior year. And we're hoping, and then our seniors that are not with us anymore, we can't fund them any longer, but the companies are saying, we'll take your seniors and we'll sponsor them. So it's been a really great partnership, and the word is spreading really fast. So we're excited. Yeah, I mean, that's not going to go away anytime soon, right? So we're excited and hope to grow it.
It's impressive. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really exciting because I think West-MEC just put out a new unemployment number of 2.9%. So that's going to continue to force business, industry, and educational partners to come even more closely together and continue to produce that workforce necessary to keep moving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Herb, I think we have. The next agenda item is first read on policies. A couple of policies. Yes, please proceed, Dr. Herb.
Okay, Dr. Pingarelli, Dr. Spurgeon, board members, before I launch into these two brief policies, just to give Mr. Boosum and others just a refreshing. Policies come from the Arizona School Boards Association. Usually they come after the legislatures made decisions and they send out advisories to us, then we look at them. These board policies are really your policies. We can modify as long as it doesn't change the structure or the legislative intent. Example we had last year is we had the parental rights policy that came out. We had 2 or 3 readings on that, reviews, and the board made a decision to take a portion of that out a year ago. So these policies are really yours. Dr. Spurgeon sent a note home, I believe, last week. We recently reviewed our policies through the organization, and they have recommended that we look at 30+ policies currently to see if we have to update them and revise them. Dr. Spurgeon came in today and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going through all of the policies that were recommended to be looked at." So I compiled all 30+ today so that when the administrative assistant for Dr. Spurgeon comes back, we can start through the process and review them. He also stated in there that in July and August, we're going to unadopt the policies and then bring forward the new policies that will currently bring them up to current standards. Knowing that we're going to get other advisories from this legislative session that will change and will be brought to you in September or October. With that, the two of you have.
So let me point of clarification. The 30 policies that were recommended for review were those from ASBA?
Yes.
So all 30, and the ones that you intend to unadapt or scrap, are those part of that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's part of the 30.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And did we receive a copy of those?
You will.
Okay.
We do it.
Okay.
Okay, that's why it's going to be a 2-month process to unadopt and then bring them forward.
But can you send the complete list?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, the first one you have before you is support staff workload. This is an example of a policy. If you look at the bottom, the date of manual adoption, this is probably back from 2002 or 3. Mrs. Rockwell, when she came into the organization, said the dates on here and when we have our 40 hours needs to be changed. So this came from an administrator or from a board member. It can, because they're your policies. So the red line shows what we changed. We brought in Sunday to Saturday, clarified it. And so this is the first reading tonight. It can't be adopted until we bring it back in June. But that's the change for this policy. Pretty minor, keeps us within the fair labor standards and the proper procedures. The second one, the child admission of students in foster care. Presently, we have no students that are attending West-MEC that are in foster care. If we do receive them from a member district or a charter or a private school, we would have to follow the guidelines that are here for foster care, even though currently we don't have any. The guidelines are all set up legislative or through the Child Welfare Agency, the Department of Child Safety. They all have input into the policies when they're written. The one that could be an issue here. Mr. Williams earlier tonight talked about the transportation under the foster child. The home school is responsible for the transportation, or if they're placed in a new foster out of that school district or that school, then the receiving school is responsible for that transportation. Well, if we receive possibly a homeschooled child, then we would have to work with the agency, the child agency, welfare agency, and there's all kinds of guidelines and questions about transportation and how we would provide the transportation for a foster child. If they come from a member district or those that are in the 3,900 square miles, then the member district or charter would be responsible for that, paying for that transportation to get them here to our campuses. So with that, it's first reading. You can call me during the next month if you have questions about changes or does this really need to be in the statute? And I will review it. If I need to talk to even legal counsel, we can do that, but most of the time I can follow up and answer your questions. So with that, if you have any questions on these two policies, I'll stand for questions, or you can call me over the next month.
Members, any questions?
I just have a real quick question on support staff. Does this allow for alternate work schedules of 410 or 980? And do we have any of that, or do we not allow those?
Say it again, for overtime?
Or the overtime, a 410 work schedule or a 980?
Well, we do 410s for 3 weeks.
So then, with it, because it says an 8-hour day, so are we creating overtime?
No, they would be working their 40 hours within the 4 days.
So do we just need to adopt this or just specify? As I said, we will be based on 8 hours per day, 5 days a week. Except we need to put some kind of exemption.
Let me research because we do have an overtime policy that has to be approved and I need to see what's in that language in that policy.
Strike also said, however, the superintendent may designate another work with instruction for the varying conditions and needs of district. I would assume that your question would fall within those guidelines. Yeah. You see that in the second.
I could add some context to this as well too. Back in 2018, the legislature changed that, excuse me, specifically school district employees had to be paid within 7 days of when the pay period ended, which meant that a school district that had a work week that was anything other than a Friday to Thursday, Saturday through Friday, Sunday through Saturday, they would have to change their work week so that they had 7 business days to process their payroll. And because West-MEC goes through Maricopa County to get their checks printed, we had to comply with what their check printing requirements were. So this is bringing us into line to what statute is.
No other questions?
No other questions? Great, thank you both. So next on deck is information on work-based learning.
Louisa, do you do the slides? Oh. Chairman Pingerelli, board members and Superintendent Spurgeon, thank you for listening to this presentation this evening. My name is Susan Leon and I'm the work-based learning specialist out of the curriculum and instruction department. I'm going to do an overview of work-based learning and then highlight some of the awesome stuff that's happened this year already in West-MEC.
Where's the keyboard?
As I'm sure you're familiar with, this is a CTE delivery model, and it informs how the district and our teachers prepare our students to be industry leaders. Work-based learning on the bottom right there is a critical component of our work at West-MEC to ensure our students are both technically and professionally ready to enter the workforce. Our common definition of work-based learning at West-MEC is a mouthful, but it's intentional. A continuum of sustained, meaningful experiences with industry and community professionals that foster in-depth engagement in a given career field. These comprehensive experiences, which culminate in a major experience, apply students' technical and professional knowledge and skills to real life, real work, and real world situations, both predictable and unpredictable, ultimately making them workforce ready. Now, this is a comprehensive technical definition, but in practice, we utilize a continuum of events that helps our instructors and industry partners understand and embed work-based learning into each CTE program. Here this is, I hope you can see everything on it. Instructors utilize this scaffolded approach to prepare their students to be workforce ready.
As you can see, activities start at the career awareness level and then move up through career training. As activities move through the continuum and therefore program, they increase in both being more student-led and in the commitment that is made from our industry partners. The work-based learning continuum culminates with a major experience. This major experience is defined by the Arizona Department of Education and is much like a capstone to their CTE experience. In front of you, or my resource in the board book that I provided with you, is a handout that identifies what major experience occurs in each of our programs, as well as a short description of that experience. Please also note that this work is important to our member districts, as each student's work-based learning experience can impact their school letter grades as well at their home high school. I personally am frequently awed at what our instructors and students do here at West-MEC. While I wish I had the time to share about all of our programs this evening, here are some highlights from this year in our programs. Welding Thunder at our Southwest campus is organized by our welding instructors, Delphina Yazzie and Eric Fye. This year, students worked on teams to build a working grill / smoker, and they competed with teams from around the state. Our Dental Assisting ACTE-AZ Program of the Year partners with AZ Moms. They travel to various locations around the valley, assisting with free clinics for low-income adults and children. This is a true service learning experience, and that means where the students are using their technical skills to help their community. This is also in addition to an embedded externship in this program. Aesthetics and hairstyling students work in their fully operating salons and clinics or school-based enterprises. These students get the experience of having a real human client from start to finish and in an environment with support from their instructor. A special thank you to Barbara Wiley for marketing the aesthetics program to her community. Our aesthetics instructor, Ms. Farmer, sends her gratitude because she noted an increase in traffic in her morning program due to your marketing efforts.
Out on the pickleball courts.
Our veterinary sciences program embeds both vet care and externships. Our instructors work with various partners to secure adoptable pets. Students work with an on-site veterinarian to prepare the animals for adoption. This includes everyday pet care, observing necessary surgeries, and marketing the pets for adoption. And I can tell you personally, it works as a proud owner of a very handsome tuxedo cat. Students also complete an extensive externship at an off-site vet clinic, and they are getting hands-on real-world experience there. Our construction programs led by Mr. Markham and Mr. Ellis build small projects and then sell their work. The Southwest campus has built a tiny home during their class this year, and the Northeast campus has built small bathrooms, and they're looking to sell those to an outdoor event center. So these work-based learning experiences don't happen by chance. By an extensive amount of work put in by the instructors, administrators, and support staff at West-MEC. As these experiences are facilitated, challenges arise. First, industry partner buy-in can be a challenge. With this scaffolded approach to the job pipeline, industry has to be willing to invest the time and resources in hosting a student on their site. Long-term, we know this increases retention and can help with businesses on the job training. This is something we're continually working on and not a problem that is just specific to West-MEC, but work-based learning in general across the nation. Also, one of the big issues with work-based learning is industries have restrictions. This could mean many things, but we primarily see restrictions around certifications and age. So we're seeing an increase though in partners willing to work through a training or job shadowing approach with some of our 17-year-old students. And it's been great hearing the conversations that some of our leaderships had with those businesses that are willing to put forth that effort and come across the aisle. Those are two of the biggest challenges with work-based learning. All of our work-based learning activities too at West-MEC are tracked by our students. So it's student-led through our Go Tracker system. This year so far, we've had over 13,000 hours of work-based learning logged by all of our students in that system. And because it's the end of the year, we still have a lot of work-based learning happening right now. So that will really increase. So in conclusion, I would like to share with the board, work-based learning is real, work-based learning is relevant, and work-based learning is timely. And with that, I thank you for your time and stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Very good. Your slide presentation was particularly engaging and very clear. It was really excellent. And so I just want to comment that I don't like being outdone by Ms. Wiley on marketing. So I would like a few flyers because I give a lot of talks to different groups, and I certainly want to make a waiting list for our services at the Northwest campus. So, and then
Great.
Ms. Wiley and I can compete.
Where I live. They could go over there.
Well, I'm getting there too. We're getting there too, Ms. Wiley, Barb. So thank you.
Thank you.
What members' questions?
They tell me on the pickleball court, I went and got a facial today. I mean, there's
They did, and they went there and told all of them you sent them.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is there, in all these programs that we have, a child or student goes into welding or the CNA or whatever, do they ever find out they don't like it and change? Or did they want to move to a different program? Or did we move them to different programs?
Well, moving depends on the timing with that, right? And the certifications, they could re-enroll into another class. Previous to this, I'll talk about West-MEC in a second, but previous to this, I was an internship coordinator at Centennial High School, and I was the internship lead for the district. I had students all the time that did that. I think one of the best things about work-based learning is even if you get through the whole West-MEC program, you've got certifications nobody can take from you, you've got credits, but if you get all the way to work-based learning and then all of a sudden you get out there and you realize you really don't like it, that's still a stop that you've got before you go spend money and spend years on an education. So doing work-based learning is still powerful, even if it occurs at the end. I bring up Centennial because I frequently had students that would finish, get their credit, get an A in the class and go, wow, I hated that, Mrs. Leon. I was like, that's great. They'd be like, why are you excited about that? Because you're college, it's been 4 years and tens of thousands of dollars to get, a degree in that field. Now you get to go do something else. So that's a positive about work-based.
So do the majority then of the kids that get into these, they finish it, even though maybe that's not.
And I think work-based learning opens the students' eyes to all the specialty ways they can go. We have those career trees, but when they actually can see an anesthesiologist or those different, really niche pieces or different careers, that helps them see what those people do day to day and opens their eyes for it.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions? Okay, thanks.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next up is, and we're almost there, information on total quality indicator, Mr. Walsh.
Thank you. Dr. Pingarelli, governing board members, Superintendent Donovan. The excellence we saw earlier delivered to you through classroom site funds, right? In order for West-MEC to really achieve its mission and make the impact in our community and make our home a better place, it's more than just our central programs, but it's all of our satellite programs and partner districts like you saw Peoria this evening. So to really ensure that quality, again, to be responsive to the taxpayers who are wanting to make sure there's a return on that investment of tax dollars, we have our total quality indicators. Through legislation keeps us responsible for those satellite programs that you heard about tonight in the Peoria district. And West-MEC takes that wholeheartedly, that responsibility for ensuring quality. So working with our member districts, we've created a process by which we don't just, it's not a paper shuffling process. It's not just, we take their word for it, but we really go out and regularly visit these programs. So we intimately develop the relationships and know it. And you heard Barbara talk a little bit about that this evening with the fact that we have relationships with everyone and we can call and help with college partnerships or work-based learning. Susan doesn't only provide leadership here at West-MEC, but she provides leadership across the entire consortium. So Julie Rodriguez has the responsibility and privilege of leading these efforts, and she does a great job at doing that. So she's going to take you a little through the TQI process and talk to you about some of the challenges we have across the consortium and the things we might be celebrating this year. Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening. Julie Rodriguez. I am the champion of the Total Quality Indicator and otherwise known as TQI. And so I'm going to take you on a little snapshot of all of the visits that we saw, the great successes and areas that we look at to improve in. So along with myself, TQI consultants, we help West-MEC team members as well as TQI, the CT directors from our local districts. We went on visits to 9 different districts, 16 high schools, 37 programs, and we had over 145 observations that we did with our local member districts. And in looking at those, sorry, Susan, for giving you the, that was easy to do. I got lost too there. Looking at the results that we found from our scoring tool that was in the board book that you guys were able to look at, we have 6 indicators that we look at. We have the program compliance, facilities, equipment, materials, curriculum and instruction, stakeholders, professional growth, and CTSO. As you can see, they scored very well in all of these areas. Now I'm going to take a little bit deeper dive into what the data says so you guys can see where they scored high in and where we see there is opportunity for growth. First, the successes. Our member districts successfully integrated academic standards into their coursework. They are great at developing strong CTSOs, which having those CTSOs earned over 90% of them, over 98% of them received the West-MEC Chapter Award, which is a wonderful accomplishment for those programs. Following the CT delivery model, teachers raised the hands-on experiences for their students as well as work-based learning experiences too. So those are great successes that from the previous years, we indicated as something they should focus on. We saw that focus turn into great successes. So we're happy to share that. Even though they still scored extremely high in the 90s, we do see areas that we could improve in. And so we would like the districts to look at raising their technical skills assessment, the TSA scores. We would also like the member districts to look at the industry credentials that they are offering within their programs. We found that not all programs had an industry credential that was highly sought after as we would like, and not all students were given the opportunity to take those tests. So we want them to embed that into their curriculum so that all students have the opportunity to earn one of these credentials, industry recognized credentials.
Can I ask a question real quick? What are some of the obstacles and barriers that you found through the TQI visits that prohibit them achieving more industry credentials than they do now? What did you find?
What we found is that a lot of the students were not completing some of the programs. So they weren't then eligible to take that. They had not learned everything. It was not identified up front. So the teachers were not working towards that. And as some of them were, it was money. So which then we could explain that, you know, that shouldn't be an obstacle. You're a partner with West-MEC. We can definitely help out with that. And so then we'd also, another area that a lot of them need to improve in is the placement data. It was discussed earlier that is one of the areas I think even Mrs. Copley said that they're working at trying to improve in. And we have not pinpointed exactly the reason there's been a drop in that. We think it might have been due to the pandemic, when a lot of they weren't able to complete the end of the year exit interviews and find out exactly where the students are going and get good contact information. So that one is something we're just going to watch and see how we can support them in that. But talking with all of the principals and with the CTE directors, they all have a good plan. It's just sometimes really difficult to do. All right, so more than just looking at documents and doing classroom observations, one of the other things that we really feel this sets us apart from any other type of TQI process state or in the nation is the interviews that we do with the counselors, students, and the teachers. We interviewed over 45 counselors, over 150 teachers and students, because we really feel that that's how we get a great snapshot of what they are doing in the classroom and anything that we can help them with. So from the 45 counselors that we interviewed, this is the highest things. This is the feedback that we got from them. And I take this feedback and then if it's feedback for the counselors here at West-MEC need to know, maybe it is Joel and his wonderful team at the professional development. Whoever needs to know this information, I'm the one that gets them this information. So looking at the counselors, they really valued the support that West-MEC offers in the partnership that we have, but they would like more information on West-MEC programs. They said that they're, when a student comes to them and says, hey, share with me, what do they do in dental assisting or what do they do in welding? They say they fall a little bit short in that and they would like to become experts in that. So they want to come and take tours of our campuses, more specialized tours that for the programs that their students are showing interest in, as well as bringing recruiters to their campus to help promote and recruit on their campus. They said that they have so much to worry about on their own campus that they would really like a lot of help with recruiting on theirs and learning about our programs. The teachers, we just love talking to the teachers. They feel very supported by West-MEC. And even though they've really improved in their work-based learning scores this time, we can really see they're offering more opportunities for students. They're not satisfied with that. They want to increase that even more for all students. So they really want help with us to do that. Couple ways they want that is with the professional development that Susan Leon does, where she gives the work-based learning PD on everything on that. So they want to take that as well as making some of those connections into industry that will help them with the work-based learning. And then they would also like connecting with business partners. And there's a couple of reasons they want to connect with business partners. One is for more work-based learning opportunities to raise as well as raise their involvement with advisory councils, which is another great way to move your program forward. So those are the two areas that they really want, or the reasons they want help with connecting with business partners. Now, the next interview we do is with students. After we do interviews with students, everybody leaves with the same thing of faith in our future, that these students really have this great plan on what they want to do after school. So this question right here, this is a word cloud from the question that we asked them, what do you like most about your program?
And if you're not familiar with the word cloud, the word that is said mostly is the one that stands out. So they loved the hands-on, the professional skills that they're learning, and the CTSO. But you can see they love the credentials they're getting, the real world experiences, the life skills, was a lot about skills. So you can see what the students are sharing with us when we interviewed them. The next one is, this is the last question that we ask when we're interviewing students. Do you feel you are more prepared than your peers who did not participate in a CT program? And they always have great answers. Yes, I do, I have my credential. But this one student from Dysart, sports med student, this kind of goes back to what you guys asked Susan of what happens if they change their mind? This student said, yes, even if I don't go into this career, I have life skills. I am confident, I can speak in front of people, and I'm excited to learn. So I felt that was so powerful when that student told me that. But yeah, even if, because the student wasn't sure they would go stay in sports med, but they saw the big picture of all the skills they had learned. So looking at all the data with all of the interviews, so we always look at what we want to focus on for the next year. We really want to improve the industry credentials earned for the programs. We saw that one was one of our most important ones to do. And we want to help with the instructor's professional growth. Every 5 years, we feel it's important that the instructor goes out into industry and relearns any new trades, anything new in that profession, and bring it back to the program and teach it to those students. We want them to stay relevant. That is so important. So we're not seeing that as much as we want to see. So we're going to look at how we can help support that. And last is celebrate successes. We really want those students, when we go out there, the teachers and the counselors, that whole school, to see how much we value what they're doing. So we're going to see how we can celebrate the success of what they're doing, whether it be through social media or having them hang like a banner or something in their rooms, and they've gone through the TQI process and now they're a high quality program. So we're going to look at the best way to celebrate what they're doing in classes and in their programs. So for that, if there's any questions, I thank you guys.
Thank you very much. So I actually want to go back to your word cloud, and just for a second, because I think that's a very valuable tool that you put up. I just want to drill down a little bit. So when you interview the student or students, is the data generated from a list you provide the students and ask them to rank the list, or is it extemporaneous through the interview?
It's through the interview.
So through these.
Yes, through the interview, just taking notes. And it's usually a panel of 5 or more students. We ask that each program sends a representative to the interview, and it's a panel for the students. We feel that they feel more comfortable than one-on-one.
And is the interviewer always the same individual?
No, it's different. When we bring out the team, depending on the schedule of the programs that we're seeing and the times that we need to go into the different programs, it could be whatever team it best fits with for that day.
Okay, I like that, and I like what you did there. I think you might actually consider is to, when you do these interviews, is have it, because you use different interviewers, is have it a little scripted, and that they can annotate the responses very clearly, or provide them with a list and have them rank it. Maybe rank the top 5 or the top 10 or something like that. And I think you might generate I don't want to say it because I think what you've done there is authentic, but it might be a slightly different outcome. So just something to consider.
Thank you. I do like that ranking idea. Yeah, absolutely. I will take that to our local CT directors and see if they, since this is a collaborative effort that we do with them, I'll see if they approve of that as well, because I really like that idea.
Yeah, because I think that kind of graphic has a profound, it provides profound information. So I'm really glad that you are employing that mechanism, that tool.
Thank you. Thank you. I always like to throw in a word cloud.
Yeah, Ms. Wiley.
Long time ago, I was at an event and it was over at the central campus. And airplane technology, whatever. There were 3 kids standing there around a table. So I walked up to them and I said, "Hi, where are you guys from? What school?" "Centennial, Liberty," 3 different schools. I said, "And your year?" "Junior, junior, senior." "Okay, what do you like best about this program?" They looked at each other, looked back at me, looked at each other, back at me. "We're with like-minded people."
Yes.
I mean, I've never forgotten that. It was like they found their niche.
Yeah, they absolutely
was
found
so
my
obvious.
GPS.
Yeah, so it's great.
We experienced that same thing. Absolutely. It is. It really does. We leave the interviews just feeling great about everything that we're doing, everything. Absolutely. And I'd like to invite you guys to come on any of the TQI visits as well. We would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's interesting you say that because when Central Campus had their Experience Orange or their Follow Your Arrow event, in that video, one of the students actually says that very thing, that I'm with like-minded individuals. And it was the aviation maintenance program.
No, they're different ages and they could talk about airplanes. You know, it just was.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are now down to our last 2 items. Future agenda items. Members, any future agenda items? Mr. Miglerino, I see your hand popping off the side of my.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a request for a future agenda item and a couple of comments. The first one is, I don't think we should cut people off when they're making a statement that we don't agree with. You know, I'm against this.
Point of order. This is future agenda items. So do you have a future agenda item?
I want to make a comment. There have been comments by board members.
This is for future agenda items. Please tell me what your future agenda item is. We went through open meeting law training and we are going to stick with it. So please tell me your future agenda item and we will go there if you want to make a future agenda item.
I do. I would like to see us take another look at this phone issue. I was unable to attend last month and I indicated why. When I got the packet in the mail and I read through the minutes of the last board meeting, I really thought it was so discombobulated that I couldn't believe it. The 8 years I've been on the board, we've talked about salaries, benefits.
Okay, the future agenda item, Ms. Brown,
I'd like the action item on why we use phones in conjunction with our jobs at West-MEC.
Thank you.
And how we're going to handle that if we don't require them to have a phone.
Okay, thank you. That I will put that on future agenda items. And I just don't want to I don't want to start discussing an agenda item under future agenda items. We're not going to do that. Okay?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other members with a future agenda item?
I would like to bring. I'd like to bring something up. I'd like to ask administration to review the BG policy. These are like the bathroom policies. I just want to make sure that none of our students are discriminated against and that all students are comfortable and accommodating here at West-MEC. And I do have a copy of a bathroom or physical privacy policy that I'd like to give to you.
This, yeah, this was what we need to do is, you can let me see that. And then, I will have, Ms. Brown distribute that to the members of the board. Since the public can't see it, I would like to do this under, but your agenda item is noted.
Okay.
Thank you. And we'll give a copy of that to Ms. Brown. And obviously for administration. Any other agenda items, Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, and I don't know who made the comments about foster kids. Do we not have any foster kids? Is that correct? In West-MEC? Currently, we do. We do not have any. Okay. That's a group that I think it's definitely needs some attention and could use would benefit greatly from CTE education. I'd like to know if we've identified what barriers there are to this unique demographic and why they're not attending West-MEC or any CTE programming that we offer. I'd like to know how we can reach out to them and increase. Well, right now we're at 0, so any number would be an increase. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, how we can help that group.
So, Mr. Ramirez, thank you. So is your agenda item to have administration investigate what we can do to expand in that area? Do you want a report, or is that sufficient, or do you want administration to prepare a presentation?
I think a presentation would help us understand the situation better.
Okay, very good. Mr. Straka.
We were gonna, I thought, do a bond discussion this month because we're running out of time. I think we have to do it this month.
It's coming in June.
It's coming in June, okay. And we're good.
Okay. And you need any other items? Okay, without, I need a motion to adjourn, and without any objections.
Motion,
okay, we are adjourned. Thank you, members.